All right. Give me a few seconds. Gonna do a couple quick editing here, and then we will get cracking. First video of 2023. Just hang tight while I get everything up and running. Start with live on Instagram. All right, cool. Let me get the editing done here on YouTube. We'll get started. All right. All right. Okay. Almost there. We're gonna start in a few minutes. A little time for some people to get here. All right. Okay, we're almost there. Today's 18. Just doing my standard editing, and then we're gonna get cracking. All right, I think we're good. Okay. All right. Save. Here we go. All right. Got the editing done. All right, so we are live on all three platforms. We are live here on Primordial Chaos on YouTube. We are also live on Primordial Chaos on Facebook. That's 2 words. So check out that page too. We're live there. And we're also live on Instagram at Primordial Chaos 9. Those are the 3 platforms that's best to keep up with. For as far as classes, I know a lot of people email me anything going on. What's the next set of classes? This and that. It's always posted on all of those platforms. Any upcoming classes, rituals, events. That's the best way to keep posted. So make sure you support those platforms. Don't forget to hit the like button so the video expands out and reaches more people. Subscribe to the channel. And just like if you subscribe to anybody's YouTube channel, make sure you hit that notification bell. And then when the drop down menu comes, hit all notifications. Because if you don't hit all notifications, you literally don't get all notifications. Right. So if you want to be notified when a new video uploads, and you want to be notified when there is a new live, like now, you will get it. That's anybody's channel, not just my channel, because that's a question I always get. I don't get the notification. I see it afterwards. And then sometimes it is YouTube just fucking around. Unfortunately, algorithms, and I do believe they control what they want to get out there and what they don't. But that's what it is. You're using their platform. If it's something mainstream they like, I do believe they send the algorithm out there a little stronger. But this information reaches who it's supposed to reach. That's how I look at it. I don't even really stress that stuff. All right. So that's that in regards to that. For this month, we are back full blast. We got right back into it, the swing. This is the first video of 2023. We've started up again in the beginning of this month with Patreon. For those that are on Patreon, we've done the annual charging rite ritual in the first week of January. We've had shadow work class number 13 that first week. Last Friday, we had, Luciferian magic and self-mastery class number 4. That took place last Friday night. And then this upcoming Friday, we have African witchcraft and sorcery class. I believe it's 7 or 8. I can't remember. But that'll be this Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we finish out next Friday evening, the 27th, with our monthly ritual, which is the ritual of Khepri, the black sun. Now, to stay, if you want to participate, and as I said many times before, I do 3 private classes a month on Patreon and 1 ritual we do as a group. If you would like to participate in that, the best way is to join Patreon tier number 3. That gives you access to all the monthly classes, and it gives you access to the monthly ritual. And also when you join, it gives you access to all of the previous classes and rituals. So you have access to the entire archive, and then you have access to everything moving forward. So it doesn't just give you, people always ask that, it doesn't just give you access from today, from the time you join moving forward. You have a wide library and a vast amount of information and rituals. Trust me, there's enough of stuff on there. I probably have close to, I don't know how many videos here on YouTube, and a couple hundred on there. There's enough information to keep you busy for years, and that's no exaggeration, because that's what I do. And I don't say that egotistically, I say that confidently. So yes, that's the best way to get access to the monthly classes and rituals that are done privately with the Patreon family. As I said to them there, and I want to say this here, I want to thank you guys over the years. Let me just put that out there. It's a new year. I want to thank everybody that has supported all of the platforms, the YouTube channel, the Patreon page. If I haven't, said it enough, I'm saying it again. I thank you guys for the last several years. This is going to be another great year. We have a lot of stuff planned, a lot of work. The work never stops. Okay. Super busy right now, just to put that out there. I know people have reached out multiple times. I'm super booked right now because of being out that whole month December. So if I'm not getting back to you right away, just be patient. I got to go through my junk box. I have to clear out some of my emails because it's bad right now. So I'm getting back in the groove. I'm getting caught up. Just be patient with me. Some of you guys booked your yearly forecast readings at the end of the year, which was smart, because I kind of lined those all up at the end of December. So I'm getting caught up with all that now. So just be patient. But we're back up and running. We're back into the groove of things. Patreon's back operating 100%. And then next month, by the end of this month, going in next month, we should be all functioning and caught up. Now, if you want to sign up for the classes individually, you can. It costs you a little bit more. Each class is $56 per class. So if you want to just take an individual class, you can do that. The process of doing that, again, is on all the social media platforms. How to do that. You can sign up and then pay either by PayPal, or you can pay by Cashapp. All that information you can find on Primordial Chaos 9 on Instagram, which we are live now. Also on Primordial Chaos on Facebook, which we are also live now. Or you can find it in the community section right here on the YouTube page. Again, as I said earlier, that's the 3 best areas to stay posted. All right. So outside of that, again, patreon.com/Baniti. You see it at the bottom. It's going across the ticker. Everything I'm saying is in a short summary right on the bottom. So if you want to sign up for the Patreon and be part of those classes, it's right there on the bottom. As far as readings, yearly forecast readings, again, this is what I'm super slammed with at the moment right now. Those will be ongoing for the rest of this month and next month. I'll probably shut that down late February. The latest would be the first week in March. And then I don't do those until next year. So you still have time to book a yearly forecast reading, which basically is what it is. A forecast gives you an outlook of what you can expect for 2023. And you can utilize that information that comes through from the spirits to help you and assist you in your journey. Outside of that, if you're interested in any other type of reading, for an example, telepathic demonic readings, if you're interested in a shadow work reading, which is an awesome place to begin, because most people always, where should I begin? Where should I start? What direction should I go in? Well, if you're doing shadow work, which everybody should be consistently, that should point you in the right direction. So shadow work reading is always a great place to get some guidance and some direction. If you're interested in an Egyptian oracle reading, a Santa Muerte reading, just send me an email. I'll send you a list of all the readings and the prices, consultations, all that. I'll send you that as soon as I get a chance. Again, be patient with me because I have to get caught up on the emails. So your email might come. I may not see it right away. I'm getting caught up. I'm almost there. All right. So reach out to me. All that is right at the bottom of the screen, email, contact info. And then, yes, it's that time of year. I know we're in a new year and it comes quick. We are promoting already the, I believe, it's be our 6th year, the 6th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference. That will again be at the end of October. So start planning for that. It always stays roughly around that time. The dates slightly change, but it pretty much stays at the end of October. So we already got things lined up and some chatter about that as it gets a little further in the year. I'll keep you guys posted and updated. So hopefully looking to see some more new faces at the conference this year, later in October. All right. Other than that, infernal blessings to all. I want to welcome everybody. This is the first YouTube video of 2023. And you see the title, right? This is going to be a new year of taking our quote unquote consciousness, our spiritual abilities, and taking the knowledge and putting it into practice on a more higher level, right? We're going to have to upstep it a notch. As I said, as things are changing, not just in the world, not just outside and around you, but there's things changing inside of you. So we must change with this process in order for us to evolve and grow and become the best that we can be. Playtime is over. It's been over, right? We see what's going on, right? We see it's a different shift out here. There's different energy. And this has been a process that has started going back to, as I've said in previous videos, to what everybody was talking about, 2012. If you reflected and you really look at that time frame from 2012 to the present, if you see me rocking back and forth, I'm in a rocking chair. It just makes me feel comfortable, right? I don't want you to think there's something wrong with the screen. You see the amount of things that have transpired since 2012. A lot of shifts in consciousness, spirituality, a lot of crazy shit has gone down since 2012. And as I've said before, as the planet is changing, right? As the planet goes through its cycles and changes, and as we do, it's very important that our energy is in alignment and we are changing and growing and evolving on that same level. Now, I titled the video, as you see, Mind Power and Opening the Gates of Witchcraft and Sorcery. Again, people misinterpret what those definitions are because people have warped interpretations of it. When you're using any form of witchcraft, sorcery, and magic, right? They all fall in the line of what we call magic. And we went over something, and I've gone over it here before, and I think I'll grab it again to run through it real quick. We went over it in one of the Patreon classes, a small section in the Wrathful Chaos book, defining what that magic is. It's going to kind of tie into what I kind of want to talk about today. So we first need to, in 2023, reiterate, even though we've talked about this before here and there, we need to remove the spookism of what witchcraft and sorcery, which falls under the umbrella of forms of spirituality and magic, right? They're forms of magic. We need to define what that is, right? Because unfortunately, depends on where you look, what source you're reading, whether it's on the internet or a book, you're gonna get different perspectives of that. So I think it's best we define this by something that's very neutral and it's very open and doesn't really align you with a specific belief system, opinion. It kind of keeps it scientifical and it applies some factual reasoning behind what that definition is. Just hold on 1 minute. I'm going to grab something real quick. Hold on 1 second. Let me run through this real quick. I went over this, just a little section here. I've gone over this before here briefly. I've scanned through it. This is Wrathful Chaos, the 5 books of satanic philosophy. Again, this is somebody found a PDF of it. So I know people have emailed me over the last couple of years. The book is out of print. You can't get a hard copy of it. There's a couple of copies circulating on certain platforms, but as usual, they charge a ridiculous amount of money because they try to take advantage of people. But I think the name of the platform, you can order a PDF. I think somebody found it on Etsy. It was like $14 for the full PDF. But I'll double check on that. All right, so in here, so when we get, before we get into, I'll give you the other sort, the other book that I'm going to take some info out. That book is easily available. I'll give that to you in a second. So before we get into depth of mind, power, and opening the gates of witchcraft and sorcery, let's basically describe what magic is and what magic is not. Because there's a lot of spookism out there. Again, depends on the perspective, who you're talking to, because their perception, their personal belief system, their ideology is going to reflect of how they interpret that. Then you have spooky ass religious people who hear the word witchcraft, sorcery, and magic, and they go to Spookyville, right? Because they don't understand what it is, right? Because usually their definitions are defined by systems of indoctrination. So that's why we want to define this clearly and using common sense and reasoning and factual evidence to kind of explain and take that spookism out. All right. Magic, and this is in Satanic Philosophy, Wrathful Chaos. Magic is the science of understanding oneself and one's conditions. Notice he uses the word science. So what is magic? It's the science of understanding one's self and conditions. Okay. That's step one. That's what we look at as when we say we are magicians. No, not fucking Harry Potter, not fucking Merlin the Wizard, and not all that just nonsensical bullshit. That's not what magic and magicians is. That's kind of fantasy, right? You can take some of those elements, but I'm trying to take a lot of those negative connotations, and we're trying to chuck that out the window. When we're saying it again, is the science of understanding oneself and one's conditions. It is the art of applying that understanding into action. And this is why I've been saying for years, you could have all the knowledge in the world, okay? All the knowledge, and we can read all the books in the world. You can regurgitate and spit all the information you remembered. It's pointless if you can't apply that. So what's the second step to magic? Is applying that understanding, right? Applying that knowledge that you claim you have obtained. Okay. This is how we got to look at this approach. Magic is a science and must be approached scientifically. Did it say faith and pure belief? No. Now I want to say this because there's a fine line. We have this other issue in the spiritual communities. We have people who just operate on pure belief and spookism, which that's not the route we want to take. We also have people who need, your people who are quick to label people pseudo because they can't explain something, so they need some source or some book or some periodical that they can. Where'd you get that? Well, here's the reality. It's the path. It's that path in between. Because guess what? Everything you experience spiritual, everything on the spiritual realm, for a lack of a better word, I have to use words that people can relate to. You're not going to be able to validate it and prove it with a book or some source, right? That's just, and people who are not tapped in to the spiritual realm have no knowledge of that. So everything needs to be found in a book. And I keep telling people for years, at some point, a lot of these sources people are saying today that they accept as credible and valid, at one point they were or would have been considered in that category that people call pseudo, because at some point when those sources were first introduced, it wasn't widely accepted. Okay. So my thing I've always posed, at what point does something go from being a pseudo or not factual And at what point does it become accepted and transition as becoming credible? And that too is based on perception, right? But if you are tapped into the spiritual realm, not everything that goes on in the spiritual realm can be validated by a book. So we must understand that. So it is the science, and in that science, one must use common sense, basic reasoning, right? And then we have to understand the difference between the subjective realm or subjective conscious and the objective realm and the objective consciousness, and how people have the ability to tap into both based on their experience and perception. And that's where it changes a little bit, okay? Because yes, there is a level to this that is subjective. And when we get into the power of the mind power and opening the gates, that's where the game shifts a little bit, right? That's where things take a turn and change a little bit. And this is kind of where people now, everybody kind of is separated in the sense as far as where they are on their journey. That is what creates these differences of opinion. This is where this person has this perspective. This one doesn't accept this as that. And as I said before, real truth is when you accept that as truth, when you raise yourself up to the realization of it. That's when it becomes truth, right? People keep forgetting that. Not because you read something in a book or a large group of people agree with something. That doesn't necessarily make it truth, and vice versa. Just because there is a large group of people that may not agree with something, that doesn't necessarily make it false. Even the great Dr. Delbert Blair said that. He used to say that all the time. And I was listening to that today, matter of fact, in one of his Cosmos videos. And he was talking about that. That's what real truth is, right? There's this false concept that's pushed that people say, they get something that they got from ideology, a philosophy, a dogma, and it has to be accepted as a whole, and that makes it truth. That's incorrect. That's false. Okay? What you have to factor in is how that truth is perceived, because somebody can make a statement and say, this is 100% truthful, and you can have several people hear that statement, and out of that several people, some are going to say, I don't accept that. That's completely false, and vice versa. Some might say it's true. Some might be on the fence. So what is that telling you? It's a matter of perception and where people are in their ideology and their understanding and their spiritual journey. So we need to put that to rest, right? So magic is a science and must be approached scientifically. This does not mean that we must be narrow-minded, as unfortunately many of you will associate the scientific with the fanatical skeptic, right? A scientist, a fanatical skeptic, thanks to such asinine people. A scientist, whether of the natural science or the occult, must approach their experiments with neither the doubt of the skeptic nor the blind faith of the believer. So it's not saying be completely skeptic or skeptical, but you must be skeptical to a bit, because that's what's going to keep you sharp and ask questions. And it's also saying not to just operate on blind faith. Okay? So you can't just do one or the other. We must be skeptic to a sense where we question. We should never accept anything, but not skeptic where we're throwing everything out the window and we're not using basic common sense and reasoning things out, right? And it's very dangerous to operate on blind faith, because then you are a prime target and candidate to be fooled, tricked, and spoon-fed anything, and then you'll accept it. So we must keep that in mind. The magician, like the physicist, performs experiments in order to find out the result and does not assume to know the result prior to completion of the experiment. So as a magician, you are also a scientist in the sense that in your ritual work and your practice, you are going to experiment with things. And what happens when you experiment? You come up with data and information, stuff that was successful, stuff that failed. The only way you're going to know that is by experimenting. So this is the scientific method or the approach that we use in magic. It's not Harry Potter, Merlin the magician, the wizard hat, and the fucking, you gotta throw all that bullshit out the window. It's not you're some evil satanic magician that fucking kills animals and children. All this spookism, stupidity okay? That people think and are so narrow-minded and are quick to classify everything as. It's just straight ridiculous. So we're putting all that shit to rest in 2023. Anybody that comes from that ignorant perspective, it has to be addressed, right? Because people are still, I'm not talking about us that are on this path. I'm talking about people that have no knowledge of this path are still spooked out, okay? They just have no knowledge of this, okay? Magic is the science, listen to this, which produces genuine understanding regarding oneself. What is magic? The science of producing genuine understanding regarding oneself. So what is one of your main reasons why people say, well, why do you do that stuff? Well, magic, why do you practice magic? Because it gives me a genuine understanding of myself, right? Because as I've said many times before, this is an inward journey out, not an outward journey in, right? Where most other systems are always teaching you to look outside of yourself for salvation, self-salvation. Look outside of yourself to get an understanding of who and what you really are. The focal point is always to some external deity or a dogma that promotes that shit. And this path is the complete opposite. We start within and we work our way out. There's a difference. So this is an inward journey out, not an outward journey in. We're not looking for pie in the sky anywhere. We're not looking up to the heavens or the skies and beyond the clouds as if there's some force or some old man with a long white beard that's controlling everything and keeping score. Okay? Them days is over. And if you're still suffering from that, it's time to do some serious shadow work. It's time to go to work on yourself. All right? So regarding oneself, which ultimately comes from one's own unconscious mind or inner self. So where does this magic come from? Where does the power of it produced from? There's your answer right there. From one's own unconscious mind, quote unquote, or inner self. What's the first hermetic principle of Tahuti? Right? Come on, we all know this. All is mental. Mental is all. The universe is mental. It's the first principle. Can't negate that. That's where it comes from. Notice again and pay attention. It all always goes back to the source where it all began, which is you. Starts within you. You can't negate that fact. That's why all these other religions that have come in the last couple of thousand years, these baby dogmas and religions, which are brand spanking new, this is why it's been easy to control people. Because it's easy if you take the divinity or the divine or the god and goddess that exists within the being or the person, male or female, if you take it out of them and say, and don't focus on the point that god or goddess that we've been searching for years is within us, let's focus them on something outside themselves. So now we're looking everywhere. This is how they were able to sell us religion. So now we're looking everywhere but where we should, which is within ourselves. And this is why it's a lifelong journey of never finding anything. Okay? And this is done intentionally. It's a distraction. It's to keep you distracted from looking where you should have always been looking from day one. Okay? We must keep that in mind as we navigate through this path and we describe what magic, witchcraft, and sorcery really is. Okay? Further, magic gives the understanding of one's conditions. Wow. What does magic do? It gives one the understanding of their conditions. Right? Sometimes you got crazy shit going on in your life you're in denial. Sometimes you could be a fucked up person and got fucked up ways and you got a bunch of chaos going on around you, but you're just not acknowledging it because you could be in some lesser spiritual system that teaches you to sweep it under the rug, pray it away, meditate it away. All your problems will just go away. Pray to some spook God. He'll fix it all for you. I'm here to tell you, he ain't gonna fix shit. Because the helping hand you've been looking for since day one is right on the end of your arm. That's the helping hand you're looking for right here. The only person that's going to help you is you. Okay? That's the only person that can help you. Okay? You can't sweep your problems under the rug. You can do all the meditation you want. You can do all of the exercises you want. When you are dealing with the shadow self, the hidden self, the real self that you've been avoiding your entire life, that you've been in denial, some of us got some fucked up ways about us. Let's just keep it real. And it's been holding us back on our spiritual path or our growth. This is why some of us struggle and we can't evolve, we can't grow. This is why some of us stay stuck in a rut and we just feel like we're not advancing in life. Things ain't changing for us. Or sometimes I move a little bit forward, looks like things is going to open up, and then bam, all of a sudden I get knocked back to where I was or worse. Because there's something about yourself, the shadow or the hidden self, that you're not addressing. It could be your personality. It could be your approach, the way you deal with others. It could be character flaws. It could be bad habits. It could be a multitude of things. And you don't think that's a big deal. You don't think that affects you. It could also be psychological trauma that you've inherited from a child to the present. It could be a multitude of things. You must start with self. You must work on self. Because once you master self and you have yourself flowing in a harmonious aspect, then you're going to see how the universe and the gates of witchcraft, sorcery, and magic and the power of the mind starts to really open for you. And it starts manifesting everything that you're trying to obtain. Because when you start with self and mastering self, you're focusing on the things that you need first, as opposed to the things that you want. Because once you focus on the things you need first, the things you want automatically come. And as you heard me say many times over the years, this is why first thing people make a mistake that come on this path, they want to start doing love spells and money magic. And that's cool and shit. But they got all these other issues going on in their life and within themselves that they're just totally ignoring. They don't want to deal with the fact maybe you're fucked up in the head. Maybe you're dealing with bipolarism, serious levels of anxiety. Maybe you got you're struggling with social anxiety. Maybe you have not addressed psychological traumas from being raised by a very abusive mother or father. Maybe you were bullied as a kid and you don't realize the trauma it's created in your life. And some people think they're, you know how many times I see this? People my age, around my age or older, they could be in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, and then they come do work on this path. They go, holy shit, something came up when I was 10, 11 years old, and I didn't realize that was fucking me up today in 2023. Because people don't understand how the unconscious mind, because what did it say here? What unlocks the understanding of self is the unconscious mind. So one of your goals in shadow work is to unlock the power of the unconscious mind, because there's a lot of things there in the unconscious mind that you're not addressing. It's been buried there because through programming, it's been done against your will and you're not even aware of it. So when you uncover the shadow self, you're waking up the unconscious mind. You're getting to really understand the real you. And with the real you, there's a multitude of things that come with that, not just the good. I know we like to pat ourselves on the shoulder and the back and give ourselves accolades for all the things we think we do well, and that's cool. Thumbs up and all that good shit. But we don't ever like to do the other part. We don't like to take, accountability for our fucked up aspects. Okay? We don't like to take responsibility for the shit we do wrong, for when we fuck up. So it's easier to play the blame game and blame somebody else for your faults. We all know these people. They always play the victim. People out to get them. I've been done wrong. People are setting me up. Somebody's working roots on me. Blah, blah, blah. Shit starts sounding like Charlie Brown. And I don't ever hear. And when people do that to me, I say, well, let me ask you a question. Okay? And maybe some of that stuff could be going on. Maybe. And 9 out of 10 times, it's never to the level people think it is. But I never hear people say, and in all of this, what responsibility, what of all that do you take responsibility for? It can't just be everybody else but you. There has to be some aspect of you that has to take responsibility for that. And then you never really get a clear-cut answer or people owning up to their bullshit. Okay? This is what magic really is. So you must understand yourself, right? Let's continue. Further, magic gives the understanding of one's conditions. Magic not only enlightens man or woman to himself as the microcosm, it enlightens him to the nature of reality beyond him or herself. And because of this, he has the potential to, what the author calls here, to receive chaosophy, which is his definition of chaos, but in a productive manner. So one of the beginning doorways, and that's why in a minute I'm going to go through that. Once you are able to understand as it describes here, the reality beyond yourself, which is the gates of witchcraft and sorcery, then things start to take a turn for the better. Now it's work. Is it easy? Absolutely not. Are there some sacrifices and some rough or intense work you will go through to get there? Yes. But what isn't worth hard working for in order to obtain something that's beneficial? Let me say it again. What is it in this life that you will obtain is not going to require hard work? That's life in general. So is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. Will it involve time and energy? Absolutely. And it'll also require you to be consistent at what you do. Number one reason why people are in a rut and never progress. You ask them, you start talking to them, and there's no pattern of consistency. Well, I did it once or twice. I did it 3 times. It just didn't work. Look, anybody that promotes magic or any spiritual path that you're just going to do a couple of rituals, a little this, a little that, light a few candles, and poof, puff the magic dragon, all your problems are fixed. Absolutely not. I've never promoted that on this path since day one, and I never will, because that's not reality. That's how you know somebody is out of touch with what magic and spirituality really is. Okay? So be careful. Be careful who is feeding you that type of information. Then it goes on to say, magic is understanding in action. This has 3 implications. First, results in the other 2, and it is the understanding that action does not, this is important, we talked about this in the Patreon class, that action does not translate to only spiritual action, meditation, rituals, ceremonies, spells, all those things, but it also applies to physical action. I got to stop right here, because this is where people get fucked up. So I'm going to use basic metaphor and understanding. For an example, people will do ritual work or some form of magic, let's say, for a better job. Let me use this one. It's real basic, real simple to understand. And whatever ritual they'll do, they'll have their altar set up, they'll light their candles, they'll go through the whole ritual, the ceremony, or whatever it is. And then they think they're just going to sit back, and then the most fabulous job in the world is just going to fall into their lap. No, what this is saying right here, in addition to what you're doing spiritually, in this case, we're using the example of opening a door for a better job or career, you would still have to put your resume out there, right? You would still have to go on to these different platforms and apply. You would still have to do something physically to complement the action you did spiritually. This is where people fuck up with magic, because they think it's poof, and bam, I don't need to do nothing. I did the ritual. Now I'm just going to sit back. That phone's going to ring, and somebody's going to call my phone, and bam, they're going to offer me a 6-figure job. No, that shit don't work like that. Sorry. Does not work like that. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. So what this is saying here, action in applying magic is not just from the spiritual part, rituals, spells, invocations, etc., etc. It also requires you to apply things from the physical aspect in your everyday mundane life. Okay, I hope people are catching this, right? So this is removing the spookism. This is what magic really is. All right. Whatever thing you change within reality to suit your will is an act of magic. Whether it be participating in a sacred ceremony or simply taking a shit. Literally, that's what the author says. Author says here, man has potential not only to change his personal reality, but also the reality of every other living being on the earth. I'm going to stop there. There's more. All right. But that gives you a basic understanding. And again, I wanted to start the year of 2023 because there are still a lot of spooky people out there who have this. And I understand because it's based on what they've experienced, because your experiences shape your reality, and your reality obviously is going to define your perception. That's facts. That's facts. You could sit there and try to dispute that all you want. You're wasting your time. This is why we can have 7, 8, 9 people in a room, and we can have a discussion on any topic you want. It could be sports, it could be science, it could be religion, it could be politics, right? And in that group, there's going to be a multitude of different perceptions based on each one of those individuals' experience, the level of knowledge they've obtained, and how they are perceiving that knowledge and putting it into practice. That's just facts. That's where the common sense part comes in. So we can get here, yeah, well, what's the source? What's this, that? Oh, that's pseudo. That shit is pointless. Because it's no different when you talk to, let's just say, somebody who is pure religious and operates on blind faith. You could be smacking them upside the head with facts, with sources, with books, this and that. But when they're in a state of blind ignorance, and in their mind, they think they're completely right, because technically in their mind they are, but they're not. And that gets into a whole nother story. You're wasting your time, because that at that point, that's that person's reality. Until they make the change and want to think outside of that illusion that they think is their reality. That's the difference. So you're wasting your time. You could sit there. It's like beating a dead horse. That's not how this works. Okay? So we must. All right. Having said that, let me get into the little section I had here. And I'm using, this is a book off of Scribed. It's a book you can get. And let me give you the name of the book for those that want to further their research. And this is The Gates of Witchcraft. That's the name of the book. And the author is Christopher is the first name, and Penziak. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Or Penzac, I'm not sure. And his last name is spelled Penczak. Again, Penczak, first name Christopher. Again, the name of the book is The Gates of Witchcraft. So I was going through some of his work a couple of weeks ago, and I came across a few things in here. And I was going through chapter 1, the gates, right? And I'm going to elaborate also and give my perspective on it. So I'm just going to go through this, but everything that I'm going through, obviously, as you know, how I build and teach, I'm going to add to that build, and I'm going to give you information. But it brought out some things within me on this topic or this subject, right? When we talk about opening a gate, right, we hear this term, right? We hear it in the ancient Egyptian path, the gates of the underworld, right? We hear it, in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. We hear it in other grimoires. We hear it in such systems as Budon, Kimbanda, and all these other different paths. You hear this term or something similar that's alluded to some type of gate or opening, right? These gates or these opening really are are really centers of energy that's activated in the psyche, right? That the mind perceives as they experience it going through some type of porthole opening or gate. I just want to reiterate that, right? You experience this obviously in your ritual work, your meditations, things of that nature. So let me just go through a couple of things in here real fast. Where is it? Yes, and then brainwaves. I want to get into that. All right. How far does that go? Hold on. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's talk. Now, there's some terms that he uses in his practice, and I'll explain. Doesn't mean necessarily we need to, subscribe to that. But there's some information here across the board that I believe is seriously helpful in that journey or that path or that understanding, right? What exactly are the gates of witchcraft? Quite simply, they are techniques to alter consciousness. So when we're talking about opening the gates, we're talking about altering our consciousness, okay? That's how you open these spiritual gates you hear talked about a lot on this path, okay? By altering your consciousness, you have a greater perception of what witches, magicians, and metaphysical practitioners call energy, a subtle and intangible, but nevertheless very real force. So we always hear on this path in different circles, oh, this is with energy. We're working with energy this, energy that. Let's get some clarity on what we're talking about, though, because sometimes I think people throw that word around, spiritual energy or energy this and that, and it's thrown around very loosely, but it's never really explained. All right. This psychic energy is known by many names in different cultures, from prana in India to chi in China. Witches don't have just one name for it. The cultures influencing an individual witch often determine the name used as such as Numen, Ad, Sekhem, which is in ancient Egypt, Novir, or Baraka. And it's unusual because Baraka is also a word in Semitic language for blessings. And I find that interesting because when we remove the religious, when somebody is blessing you, isn't to a degree a certain energy being bestowed upon you? So even when you look in religions and Catholicism, when the priest is giving a blessing, the question is, what's contained in that blessing? When you really break it down, you'll see there's a certain energy, regardless of how you perceive it, that is contained in the blessing or the baraka, right? I found this interesting. So as I was going through this, a lot of stuff started clicking, right? In altered states of consciousness, you can use this energy to aid your personal connection to the forces of the universe. You see that? And when we say the forces of the universe, remember what it said in Wrathful Chaos. Once you start understanding yourself beyond reality, and when it says beyond reality, we're talking about the three-dimensional realm of person, place, and thing. And I keep telling people to understand the mysteries of, quote unquote, again, I got to use terms that are very basic, and I don't even like using some of these words, the spiritual realm, because that can come off sometimes as a little spooky, but you know what I mean. I'm referring to something outside of three-dimensional person, place, or thing. Once a person is able to transcend person, place, or thing and vibrate out of three-dimensional understanding, this is when the mysteries or the forces of the universe and sacred knowledge is made aware to that individual. The mysteries of life and death, understanding what spirits are, gods and goddesses and demons, and how they really operate and work. What happens after we leave here? What really is this thing called death that most people fear, right? You're not going to get that understanding from a million books you read, from a million meditations you do, until you incorporate a practice where you can transcend outside of lower vibrational frequencies of three dimension, which is person, place, and thing. All religions are governed by three-dimensional understanding, which is person, place, or thing. Just look in the Trinity. What do you think the Trinity is? It is person, place, and thing. You have a physical being, you have a thing energy, and some fictitious spirit that resides in some abode or place called heaven. Name something in those lesser dogmas that are not governed by person, place, or thing. And this thing that people are calling God, they will never understand it from a three-dimensional understanding, because people are trying to explain what God is from a person, place, or thing understanding. You can't do it, because there's nothing you're going to be able to say that is not mortal in essence. It's no different when you look in the Bible or the Quran when they describe heaven in the book of Revelations. It doesn't describe anything that is not human or mortal that cannot be obtained here. The same thing in the Quran. It describes pearly gates, silk, rivers of milk and honey. This is all human beings and their mortal mind and the authors that wrote this. Show me one thing in any of them holy books that describes this place that's supposed to exist on a whole nother realm, but give me one description of that place that can't be defined, that is mortal in nature. You can't do it. Gold, milk, honey, pure virgins in the Quran, right? Pearly gates, fine linen. Show me something that describes these so-called spiritual. Everything there is it's mortal, it's human. That's because the people that wrote those stories can only describe it based on their three-dimensional understanding. And your goal on this path, one of your goals is to vibrate outside of that lesser understanding and open up your psyche or your mind or these gates by altering those states of consciousness to bring that level of awareness and understanding into your psyche. That's how you make the change. Okay? Let's continue. With a greater connection, you can use the psychic energy not only from your own body, but your environment, the earth, and the heavens, or the skies, or just another term the author's using here for a higher abode, to remove the spookism, themselves to fuel your intentions to perform a spell or to send your awareness into different realms on a journey for wisdom, insight, or power. Your ritual and every aspect of it is all based on how you fuel your intent. This is why I've been saying that and really going hard on that for the last couple of years. If your intent isn't in alignment and it's not strong, and you are not fueling your ritual work with the passion and the power and the energy from your intent, you will never be able to perform magic effectively. You will never be able to carry out ritual effectively. And all of that starts with the power of the mind and how the energy and the power from your mind is the driving force that activates that intent. Okay? This is the difference, people. Okay? Humans are generally unaware of energy in day-to-day reality and must train themselves to sense it. Even with rudimentary perceptions of energy in daily life, further techniques are usually needed to use the energy in any meaningful way. By opening the eternal gate of consciousness, you can view a new reality. And if you choose to step through it, experience the worlds beyond the physical, existing wholly in the psychic realm. So in essence, that short section there, before I go to the next one, that's the only way you're going to be able to understand or get the answers to questions you've been seeking, most of us, since we were young. The only way is if you are able to open yourself up and experience these worlds beyond your mundane reality. And that's why last year in the fall, and the late summer, early fall, I was doing a lot of videos on your imagination and the power of your mind, and how there's been a interplanetary war to steal and control your mind. This spiritual war has been going on for a while now, and it's about control. And as I said before, and I don't want to get into the whole pandemic thing, the pandemic was at the core of it was the battle and the fight and the war to control your mind. By how? By fear. Anytime there's an agenda to enslave a people, it starts first and foremost by enslaving a people mentally. Because once you have enslaved people mentally, you automatically have them physically. Okay? And there's been a conscious effort for war to control your mind now for a while. And it starts by one, stealing from you the power to visualize and use your imagination to create worlds, to destroy worlds. And that by that power and that by that deep destruction and creativity, you are able to fuel your magic. And if you tapped into that ability and truly understood it and accepted it, you'd be a severe danger and threat to them. You wouldn't be able to be controlled. You wouldn't be able to be manipulated and indoctrinated, because you would be operating on the power of your God mind, for a lack of a better word. And I don't want to sound all consciousy, it's the God mind and the God frequency, but you get what I'm saying. Your divine mind. You'd be using your divine mind and not your mortal fucking mind that they programmed you with. Because the mortal mind is the mind they programmed you, and they tried to instill in you that that's your reality, and it's not. Okay? It only becomes your reality when you embrace it. Okay? Once you accept something as real, you embrace something as facts or truth to you, that's when it becomes a reality, regardless of what it is. Okay? They know this. So there's been a serious program. So if through that programming and control, they want to cut off your creativity completely, they're doing this through virtual reality. I talked about this before in the past. And they're doing it through AI, artificial intelligence. Listen, people, it starts off with the word artificial. It's not real. It's fake. Okay? I understand it's a good tool. I get that. There might be some basic good to it on the end, but what they're not telling you is the psychological damage and the intellectual damage it does to your mind, because it cuts off your creativity completely. And if you don't think perception and how the mind registers energy and how it registers consciousness and how the brain waves respond to that consciousness, as I said before in some videos several months back, look at the virtual reality games. You can pull up YouTube videos, funny videos of people so sucked into that virtual reality, crashing into walls, because when they put on those virtual reality goggles, the images and the energy and as that energy is moving in front of them, how the brain waves tap into it and then register it, what it's seeing is how it responds. So this is why you can put on virtual goggles and play those games, and you really feel like you have a gun in your hand, or you really feel like you're holding a tennis racket, and you watch people run and crash into walls. And they have no reality that there's a wall right there 3 feet from them, because the only reality that they're seeing is what the image is, the brain and the energy waves that the brain is seeing through the visual, and it's only seeing that. So if somebody could put on virtual goggles and just by what's being fed to the mind's eye, they're reacting, don't tell me they can't program your ass. Shit. And now they're just throwing it right in front of your face. So don't tell me they can't get in there and steal your creativity and how you view things. So they pass this virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and all this other shit, right? The greatest form of intelligence, the greatest form of what they're calling virtual reality, is the power of your own mind. So now they want to get in on an unconscious level and get into the inner depths of your subconscious mind and program you from inside out, because they know outside in doesn't work anymore, because some motherfucker people are waking up. As I said before, people do not trust spiritual leaders and religions anymore. People do not trust authority anymore and the government because of a lot of the shit that's going on. And I'm not saying everybody in those fields are fucked up and corrupt, okay? But I am saying there are some that are, unfortunately, okay? This is the reality. We have to see things for what they are, not for what we think they are. There's a difference. So opening the gates to witchcraft, sorcery, and understanding true magic is going to put up that barrier of defense for them not to be able to penetrate your unconscious and subconscious mind to program you and control you through fear, through your emotions, through media, social media platforms, the internet. etc., etc. Okay. Hold on. All right. Hold on. Okay, if anybody is watching on Instagram, it still looks like it's up. I just saw a message on my streaming platform here. If there's any issues with the stream not being clear, just switch over. I'm not going to start a new stream on there. Just switch over to either the YouTube channel or the Facebook, Primordial Chaos on Facebook. All right. If you're experiencing any issues, it's still streaming, but it just sent me a message. It still looks like it's fine, but just in case, switch over. Okay. If you're having issues. All right. Okay. So this is what's going to be your psychic self-defense, for lack of a better word. We hear that term. What is psychic self-defense? By carrying out and having this understanding, you are creating your personal psychic self-defense. Okay? This is reality. It's your reality, not the reality that they're trying to program you into. Okay? So the author goes into, he uses a term for opening these gates, or he calls it the Nirika or Nirika, not sure how it's pronounced, but the concept you'll be able to understand. I was taught that this gate is the door people pass through in dreams and at death, unless they are witches or sorcerers. Those who know have the keys that can open and close the gates at will and pass whenever they desire. And once you have that ability, people, nobody's going to be able to control and captivate your mind. Trust me when I tell you. But saying it in words, I could say it a million times. It's one thing to hear it said, but it's a whole nother thing to experience that understanding. Okay. I believe this is the same as the door that hath no key, referred to in the work of ceremonial magician and occultist Dion Fortune. Talks about this in a lot of her works. I'm sorry, his works. I've always for years get them confused, male and female. In the poetic invocations found in her novel Moon Magic, it has no physical key. And I always referred to Dion Fortune as a male. I always made that mistake. It has no physical key. Magical technique is the intangible key that opens the door. It has no key. It is the intangible key that opens the door. This is what I mean when I've been saying for years. There is no parameters. There is no boundaries, no beginning, no end. There is no right, complete, one and only right way to do things. And that's why I posted, I think I need to repost that saying from Nietzsche, right? You have your way, I have my way. As far as the right way and the only way, it doesn't exist. Not when you're dealing with primordial and pure chaos in its pure form, its prime form, where all things have their point of origin. Chaos is not confined to any parameters or limitations, right? That's all governed by what they've been shoving down our throat for years, linear time. We as occultists and magicians, we don't operate on linear time. We do understand how cyclical or cycle times work, because we understand everything is a cycle, a wheel within a wheel, right? We understand the square, right? And we understand the basic symbol in metaphysics and quantum physics of the circle within the square, right? Because we understand within that square those four parameters, or as you see in a lot of spare, they call it the four corners, the four winds, right? And inside that square, or those four corners, is the circle. And in the center of the circle is the dot. The dot represents you, right? And everything, you're in the center, and all of that is vibrating around you, the circle and the square, which signifies you are the ruler, the governor, the master over your universe. And everything vibrates around you. You are on the center of your axis. Their job is to push you from the center, because when you're pushed from the center of your axis, now you have a warped perception of what reality is. And your reality and how you perceived it is what now they're able to spoon feed you through your emotions and your fears and your insecurities and your anxieties, right? And as we know, whether we get into the symbol of the Ouroboros, which is the serpent with the tail in its mouth, the circle. And as you know, if somebody draws a circle, the only person that knows where that cycle begins and ends is the person that drew the circle, which represents you as the master or God over your universe, your subjective realms, where you build, you destroy, and you create continuously in the inner depths of your unconscious mind. So you must awaken that unconscious awareness that has been laying dormant for years because they've been trying to bury it. And that's how they are able to steal your imagination and your creativity. Okay, I've been explaining this now over 7 months, and hopefully some people are now grasping it. Okay. Often quoted today in witchcraft circles as part of an invocation to the witch's horn god, who in many traditions is the guardian of gateways and the opening of the door to mysteries, right? Here she even alludes to its dream nature for most of us through the magicians and the priestess. He's talking about Dion Fortune. Or her novels can pass through the door at will. So let me skip. Down to here. All right, so let's go through this here. This is important. If there was a teaching, and then I'll talk a little bit about the brain waves, and then I want to get through this because it's important, and then I will go through the chat comments and questions as much as I have time permitting. If there was a teaching that specifically located this gate in the body, I don't remember receiving it, though I do know I associate it with a specific part of the body. Now watch this. I've been saying something. Now, the author's not saying this, but this is what made me. I've been telling people, as it's taught in the draconian tradition, there are 11 chakras, right? And those last 3, they're not connected to your body. I know that fucks people up because they don't understand, but I'm going to run through it now. Okay. While many traditions talk about power centers, energy points, and chakras, I always felt a strange buzzing at the back of my skull when opening the gate. Traditions around the world see the skull as a receptacle for spiritual power, especially if you work necromancy and sorcery. Skulls are used in necromantic rites to commune with the spirits of the dead. Traditions of head hunting are found across the world, as to possess one's head is to possess their power. So it's even in the Ifa tradition. If you've been initiated in Ifa or Santeria, what do they say? You're crowned and the Orishi is put on your what? Your head. Okay? There's a reason why they say that. Okay? Sacred king traditions involve beheading the old king, bodily or in effigy. While we don't like to think about such things in the context of our modern spiritual search, the ancestors whose wisdom we draw up, the tribal people of the world, have had traditions of head and scalp and hunting, right? And we know there was various Native American Indian tribes that were headhunters and scalping, right? Why we like to paint them with modern ideal of the noble savage, it is important to know their cultures are foreign to our modern culture. Along with their ethics, religion, and aesthetics, we draw on strands of their wisdom, but often do not see the whole picture. Okay? Heads, I'm going to skip down, I'm skipping around a little bit. Heads are vessels of power, and I believe they hold such power because of this gate. Specifically, I feel it where the top of the spine and the back of the skull meet. Here's why. Here is the reptilian portion of the brain, most primal and survival orientated. It's also the understanding of the serpent power, the Kundalini energy, and how that Kundalini or serpent energy is raised. Because when one is actually raising the Kundalini and is going through that inner awakening, there are multiple things happening. And in that awakening process, Contrary to belief, how some people always describe, yes, there are blissful experiences. Yes, there is a serious spiritual awakening. But one thing I never hear people describe is some of the pain that the individual goes through in the changes. All Kundalini energy and awakening is not pleasant. I don't give a fuck what anybody tells you. If they say everything they experience is pleasant, then I'm not really sure what they're experiencing. Because when those energy centers are awoken and the psyche is awake, there is some pain and trauma that the individual is going to go through. And when they experience and go through that, that's part of the challenges and the battles that they will face and unfortunately have to work their way through. But I can tell you this, the spiritual warrior takes those challenges on head on and goes to battle. And I can promise you, if you get through those battles and you win the war, in the end, you will come out a refined, rejuvenated, and a repolished being like you've never been before. Right? What is it? Test and tried and proven through the fire, right? We hear this term. Well, you're going to have to go through those tests, trials, and tribulations. Nobody is beyond it. No great master, god or goddess, became one without going through trials and tribulations, okay? See, the problem today is everybody wants to give themselves accolades and self-appointed titles. I'm high priest this, I'm elder this, I'm priestess this, I'm guru Askamaya Baloney this, I'm spiritual master this, I'm doctor this, I'm reverend this, I'm this, I'm that. It means absolutely fucking nothing. Okay? Self-appointed titles mean nothing. You got other people taking a course online that all of a sudden gives them a certificate and tells them they're a doctor of theology. Anybody can do that bullshit. It doesn't mean nothing. All they are curtains and veils to suppress you from the weak aspects of your ego. They're all illusions. And this is why, if you know me for years, there ain't no title in front of my name or after my name. My name has been Baniti. Baniti just means teacher. That's it. I don't need to be priest, Ra Hotep Akbar Muhammad. I don't need to be some long spiritual name that sounds deep and heavy. I don't need some catchy avatar to express the weak part of my fucking ego. Because you see people, I love the ones that some of these motherfuckers, listen, man, some motherfuckers with these avatars, you guys need to stop it. Seriously. Still, I just can't keep up with the crazy shit. Right? Because everybody wants to be. Now, don't take it personal if you got avatar. I don't want people changing their avatar. Everybody wants to be everything but themselves. But guess what? You can cover yourself with all those veils of illusion. Guess what starts to manifest in the end? It's not going to matter. When I say in the end, what starts to win out anyway, the real self is going to emerge, good or bad. It doesn't matter. You can give yourself accolades, titles, call yourself this or that, think in your mind you're this or that, portray yourself to everybody as this or that. Guess what the reality is? The real trinity is self. This is who you think you are, which most people live that lie their entire life, unfortunately, sad to say, but that's facts. There's who you want people to see you as, and that's the second part that people spend most of their existence. And then there's the third one, the only important one. There's who you actually are. We're trying to awaken the third one. And we're trying to embrace everything about that's good and bad. And we understand that everything about it is good. We understand there's a lot of great there. And definitely build upon the great. Build upon the strong and your strengths. Make them even more superior. No doubt. That's the easy part. But we got to fix the fucked up stuff first, as I said earlier. Can't ignore that. And again, if you run into people, or some people don't think, it's sad in life. Some people really think there's nothing wrong with them. And that's the first thing that's wrong with them. It's very disturbing to think any individual today can be walking this planet, think they don't have nothing wrong with them. You must be out of your fucking mind. All of us are carrying some shit that we need to work on. I don't care who you are, how seasoned you are on this path, or how new you are on this path. We always have work we need to do on ourselves. That won't change until you transition out this motherfucker. Let me make that clear. Okay? If you're still here, your bullshit is still here with you. Dress the shit. Stop trying to cover it up with dashikis and Egyptian musk and big ass ankhs and saying Alafia and Hotep. That's not going to cover it up. And as I said before, you can do that, but look, I see people do it. Look, you could be on all those paths. You could have the lingo down packed, the dress code, Lafia, brother, Hotep, Ashe, Ashe, right? You might have everybody fool. You ain't fooling yourself, number one. Number two, you can't play that shit on this path. This path will expose you in a very short amount of time if you full shit. Listen, I said many times before, I can tell you just in the last 10 years, I'd run out of hands, fingers, toes, and a calculator to calculate how many people I've seen come and go in this motherfucker. Trust me. Because once they get here and that realness hits their ass, shit, nah, let me go back to being a Hotepper. Nah, let me go back to being an Assalamu Alaikum motherfucker. Nah, let me go back to being a Shalom motherfucker. Let me go back to being praise God, Jesus, and all that shit. Let me go back to doing that because that was safe. Okay? That was safe. And there's no such thing in your spiritual journey as being safe. Gotta stop. People gotta stop. Keep making excuses on this path. I'm just being. I don't quite want to. You have to at some point. At some point, not everything is going to be mapped out and explained for you. Remember what we said in the beginning about the breakdown of magic, and part of understanding what magic is experimenting, right? You must experiment in order to come to those realizations. Okay? And how you can do your due diligence is by gaining the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding. That's the best you can do. Now, I'm not telling anybody to just blindly jump into some shit with no knowledge gain. That's just pure foolishness. But at some point, if you have the knowledge, you've been doing your work, your research, you have no excuse not to experiment, is what I am saying. I'm not talking about, I just read one thing, or I don't have much knowledge. Let me just dump. No, I would never encourage anybody to do no shit like that. I'm talking about, we got motherfuckers for the last 3, 4, and 5 years. I know I'm not going to say no names because it's not about that. So don't take it personal. I know motherfuckers been on this path 3, 4, 5 years and they still act like Scary Mary. What the fuck is you waiting for? That's a deep internal problem you need to look in within yourself. Because if you've been on something for 4 or 5 years and you're afraid to jump in, we got to tackle this another way. 2023 is the year about getting it done. No more bullshit. The saying for this year is no more talking about it, be about it. I think I'm going to get some shirts, Primordial Chaos. Don't talk about it, be about it. Right? That's what we're operating on this year. Don't talk about it, be about it. So you can get away with that shit and all your past. You could get in your little Hotep circles and, yeah, brother, such and such. And, back in the day, my brother, we was gods and goddesses in Egypt and, blah, blah, blah. And, Alafia, fuck all that. I don't want to hear about back in the day. I don't care. I want to hear about how great we used to be. I want to hear how great we can become now in 2023. I'm not listening. I want to hear a back in the day story. I don't need a history lesson anymore. I don't need nobody to tell me what I can and cannot do and who I am and who I am not to fuck with all that in 2023 and beyond. Because it's pointless. It doesn't make any sense anymore. So as I said, I'm going to say it and you'll hear me repeat it. I think I'm going to repeat it so many goddamn times this year. It's going to get you sick to your stomach. No more talking about it. Be about it. And you be about it in your actions and your deeds, not just your words. Actions and deeds, right? As they say, actions speak louder than words. Okay? So now a motherfucker needs to be about it in their actions. So when you're in them circle and the Hotep is regurgitating all this information and you're falling asleep, bored out your mind because he read some books by Dr. Ben or Ivan Van Sertima or Francis Cress Welsing, and there's nothing wrong with that. No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. But really basically just spitting shit you can find out on your own. Just simply turn to that motherfucker and say, and what is that doing for you in 2023? Give me some living examples of that in your life today. And if that motherfucker, you look at them and they sleeping in their mom's basement, ain't got no car, ain't got not a dollar to their name, can't take care of their kids or their family, can't pay their light bill, say, brother or sister, you a poor living example of the shit you talking. And I'm not talking about people that naturally fall in hard times, because shit happens. Circumstances are sometimes given to people beyond their control, but real people work their way out of it. Okay, real people find an answer and a solution. So I'm not talking about some people who are dealt hardships, and it happens. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people that want to play heavy and deep. Them days is over. The conscious pimps, the conscious wannabe heavies. I'm talking to those motherfuckers. Okay, I don't give a fuck if you like it. I couldn't care. I really don't. Because I stand firm on what I'm saying. And I have no problem having a conversation with anybody face to face on this. I'm not impressed by how much you think you know about Egypt or Africa. I couldn't give a fuck. Because everything you're saying, I can find somewhere. Because now that this internet is going wild and for, Facebook, YouTube, and all this, all I see, if you look at the pattern, not all, you go on most people's platforms, they're just regurgitating shit they heard on other people's platforms. And I'm not saying this to be ego. I hear people saying shit that I've said, but they're not going to quote. They're not going to make reference to me because this is not a path they want to be associated with. And I'm not saying that because I want credit. I don't want no credit. I don't want no pat on the motherfucking back. Okay? All I'm saying is be real with yourself. You keep playing that game, you want to have your left foot in and your right foot out. Do the hokey pokey. You want to play that hokey pokey shit? That shit's going to fuck you up in the long run. Trust me when I tell you. So the days is over. I don't want a history lesson. I don't want to be told what to do anymore. I don't want to hear how great we used to be back in the day. Okay? Because none of that shit impresses me. And if you're just so simple-minded in 2023 and that shit still captivates your emotions, do what you got to do. But I'm not here. I don't do that. I'm not here to tell you feel-good stories. I'm not here to stroke your ego and make you feel good and do a lecture or a video so you can walk away and feel, oh, man, I feel so special. No, I'm here to tell you it's time to do some motherfucking work. Time's up. Games are over. No more time for bullshit. No more time for just talking about it. It's time for people to be about it if you're on this path, right? So no more talking about it. Let's be about it, right? All right. A couple more things I want to run through here, then I'll go through the chat. Questions, comments, concerns, and all that good shit. All right. So specifically, let's finish here. The author talks about feeling it at the top of the spine, the back of the skull meat. Here is the reptilian portion of the brain, most primal and survival oriented. I was to say all that because we were talking about Kundalini awakening and what it is and what it's not. Known as the brain stem. Here we also have access to our power. The keys to the Narika are very primal. It's as if they are hardwired into our biology. Buttons for the biological computer of our body. They are the birthright of every human being encoded into our DNA and physical makeup. You know what this is saying when I read this? Everything you need to access, every level of consciousness, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and awareness is what? Already encoded in your DNA. It's always been there. You've just lost the ability to tap in and open this gate. That's all. Nobody, including myself, is teaching you anything new. It might appear new because you just forgot it. So it creates the illusion that it's new and you think you never heard it before because it's laying doormat in the inner depths of your unconscious mind. I don't give a fuck who you're coming across, what they're teaching, how deep it sounds. Yes, it might be stirring your emotions. It might be fascinating you for the moment. It might appear to be new. It's not new. It's just that you forgot based on this. Because it is a fact that it is encoded and ingrained in every aspect of our DNA. And this is showing you how it's awakened and how you tap into it. That's what real Kundalini awakening is. I'm trying to take the spookism out of all this shit. Okay? I don't look. As you know me years ago, I couldn't give a fuck what a motherfucker think. I have to keep reiterating that. Because your mainstream conscious person is going to disagree with what I'm saying. Because they've been indoctrinated with what, just like a theologian, a priest, or a pastor, they've been programmed with what they should accept and what they should not. Because I hear all these people talking about their gods or goddesses, but everything that comes out of their mouth is conformity. You can't be a god or goddess if you're preaching conformity. Okay? So that's what I mean when I say a motherfucker is going to tell me what I should accept as right and wrong. My reality and experiences will dictate the truth of what's right and wrong. Not your book, not your so-called credible source, not your philosophy, or not your personal ideology that you think in your mind is the only right and exact way to fuck with it. I couldn't care. Just don't care. Because it's irrelevant. If you're a god or a goddess, it is irrelevant. Because a god or a goddess stands firm on the truths that they've raised themselves up in that understanding. That's when it becomes truth. And on that divine truth, on that power, nobody can strip you of that. That's why I said there's been a war for your mind for years now. And this war is going to intensify. It's going to get, the battle is, they're going to go full blast. Okay? Look. See, people don't look at this. And I'm not saying, look, I want to make this clear because I do. I watch Netflix, the Paramount app, Peacock. Yeah, there's all these great shows. There's a reason why they're doing this. The binge watching, putting out 10 episodes, people, they're trying to speed the process up. There's teaching in some of them shows, but there's also programming. Right? I know it's a great thing. People sit down, I watched this weekend, I watched 12 episodes of such and such. Well, be careful. What is it you watched? So now they found other methods to speed this process up. I try to watch. I'm watching some interesting stuff. Let me throw some stuff out there. There's a movie you might or might not have heard, and I didn't know about it. I stumbled across it. Idris Elba put out a movie not too long ago that apparently was released internationally, 3,000 years long. And check it out if you haven't. It's about the jinn. Blew me away when I watched it. It incorporates the story and the mysteries of Sheba and Solomon and the jinn. Of course, there's their indoctrinated aspect to it. But the movie's dropping jewels if you haven't seen it. I watched it about a week or so ago. See, in my little break I took, which is probably the only time of the year I get to watch some movies consistently, 3,000 years long, and check it out. A really good movie. Dropping a lot of science and jewels in it. If you watched any of what was the name of that damn? It just came back on Amazon season 2. Al Pacino. God, I can't think of the name of it. It took him 3 years to come out with the second season. I'm drawing a blank. Was the Chases? It deals with all the false concepts of time and man, I can't think of the name of it now. But anyway, what I'm saying is be careful with that stuff too, because they have other methods now to speed up the program, right? And I'm not saying that watch movies, but know what you're watching is what I'm trying to say. All right, let's continue through this. Almost done. We have simply forgotten them because our culture has changed so much. As I was just saying, when we say that we use only 10% of our brain's true capacity, a controversial statement that is challenged by many in the scientific community, I think this gateway represents the hidden, higher functions of the brain that lie dormant in most people. Okay? While consciously opening the gate is not going to grant you genius levels of brain power, those who regularly pass through the gate seem to be, here's how you know, you've tapped in, more creative, healthier, happier, and simply more engaged with life. This is what I mean when I say your actions, it must be reflected in your life. That's what I mean when I say results. These are the characters and attributes of those results. Okay. Hunters, thank you. I just saw it out the corner of my eye. Thank you. Yes, they've just put season 2 up of The Hunters, which I watched. I believe the first season was right before the pandemic. I believe it was 2019 or early 2020. I'm almost certain. And I was surprised they came out with that. And I'm looking for the second one on Wheel of Time. It was another Amazon Prime series that was dropping jewels. But yeah, The Hunters is back on. I'm gonna check that out. Thank you. I just saw it out the corner of my eye. So these are the attributes of that, right? Those involved in magic, meditation, shamanism are considered more inspired, more in touch with the divine source when compared to other people. A chiropractor once told me that the point where the spine and skull meet is one of the most important parts of the skeletal system. Adjusting it all affects the entire spine. Magical practitioners who get it adjusted often see great shifts in their ritual, psychic abilities, vision, and magical powers. Some esoteric traditions refer to it as the altar major chakra, the mouth of the god or goddess, or the well of dreams. So we know the spinal cord, the brain, when those two are disconnected and dysfunctional, when there's issues with your central nervous system and there's neurological disorders, that can create serious issues inside the body. Okay. And it can also create issues spiritually. But as it said here, when those things are adjusted or stimulated, it can enhance those spiritual abilities. I've been saying for years in simplistic terms, going back a long time ago, 20 plus years, right? When somebody has a nervous breakdown, right? When the central nervous system does not function, they say the person's having a nervous breakdown, meaning your neurological signals are not in line with your brain waves and your ability to comprehend and understand just basic mundane things, basic reality, and be able to decipher and differentiate between those realities is what can cause somebody to have a nervous breakdown, right? This is all in line with what the author is talking about here, right? The last thing I want to get into, and I'm going to finish with this, brainwaves, right? And this is where the mind power comes in, right? We need to understand our brain waves, the levels of our brain waves. I've been big for the last several years talking about frequency and vibration. And the frequency and vibration is all depending upon what you're feeding the subconscious mind. And they know this. So your vibrational frequency, your energy can be very, very quote unquote low wave frequency when you are being indoctrinated. Hold on. Yeah. All right. Hang tight 1 second. I got to switch rooms. I'm going to pick this up in a second. Give me 1 sec to move this stuff. Hold on 1 sec. All right. Hold on. Got to do this. Hang tight. Hang tight. Just give me 2 minutes here so I can reset up. Let me just plug this charger back in. All right, hang tight. I will be right back and we'll finish this. Hold, give me 2 minutes.
I don't have that.
All right, let me just get readjusted here real quick. I think we're good. Just had to switch. Let me get back into where we left off. So hold on, start checking everything. Make sure the sound is good. All right, I think we're good. All right, that's working. Sound. All right. So we left off with brainwaves, frequencies. We were talking about frequency, vibration, all those things. Let's get back into that real quick. All right. There we go. All right, so just pull back up what I had over here. Put that back over there. All right, let me open this up real quick. Oh, man, I hate this thing. All right. All right. All right. So, yeah, we left off with brainwaves. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And this is important. Vibration, frequency, energy. It's something I've been saying for years. And some people give off low vibrational frequency. We hear this term, right? What does it mean when it says some people give off low vibrational frequency? When you are, and we learn this in basic alchemy and hermetic philosophy, when you are vibrating at such a low frequency, it's impossible for you to tune in to this awareness, to activate this portion of your psyche, to open these gates that we're talking about of magic, witchcraft, and sorcery, which opens up higher levels of awareness. So let's go into this last section I have here on brainwaves. The key to opening the gate within is inducing a shift in brainwaves, right? So that's part of when we were talking about earlier, altering states of consciousness. What you are actually doing is you are inducing a shift in brainwaves, right? Different brainwave states generate different levels of consciousness. Generally, by lowering our brainwaves, we induce a state of consciousness more useful for magical endeavors such as ritual, meditation, and shamanic journey. So this is another explanation or reason why some people describe struggling per se in their ritual work or not getting results. Usually it's because they are not able to tap in on this level, right? It's not so much that the knowledge that they're acquiring isn't working. It's not so much that maybe in per se the ritual they designed isn't working. What happens is if your intent, and as you know, I've been talking about for years, fueling your intent, if that is not done properly in accordance with this, you're not going to get the results. That's why. Higher brainwave patterns also come with their own benefits, but it can be harder to induce higher brainwave states for longer periods of time. Even the more vigorous techniques on the eightfold path tend towards repetition and will lower the brain waves, even if the other body functions are heightened, right? So when we talk about being in sound, when you hear me saying sound, mind, body, and spirit, there has to be a harmonious flow with all three of those. And this is what we're showing people in the various Patreon classes we're doing, in the Luciferian Magic and Self-Mastery class, the Kundalini Meditation and Awakening class, right? I'm showing people how to do this on Patreon in addition to the work that they're doing for themselves. This is what we're doing. And this is what I mean when they say this, it's not about talking about it anymore. It's about being about it. And people that are on there know we do work in those classes. It's not just this. All right, it's night. We come here now, YouTube. We just, we kick it, we talk, and we got to do that too. But people that are part of the Patreon family know we're doing work in all those classes. Nobody can ever say they don't know what to do. Okay? Nobody can ever say, what should I do? What direction should I be going in? Well, all I can do, my job, I can't make you see it, force you to see it. All I can do is point you in that direction. And the work does that. It's your job to pick up that torch from there and carry out the work. That's something myself or nobody else can do for you. See, one thing I've been learning on this process for years, people want to be part of a path where they want somebody else to do it all for them. That's why those other paths are appealing. Let me just be part of this group, this Mickey Mouse club, and now I'm in. So now I got my ticket to self-mastery and salvation. No, that's not how this path works. You're going to have to get on board and do this work. All right. We all move in and out of altered states of consciousness throughout the day. Right. We all daydream. Our mind wanders. We all can go through different states of mind. Right. To go from any one state of consciousness to another is natural. There's no great mystery to it. What the keys of witchcraft do for us is allow us to pass through these states of consciousness at will, intentionally and fully aware. Most of the time we pass through them when our mind wanders. Now, this is crazy, and I'm sure this has happened to a lot of people, and I've mentioned this before in the past. It's crazy. I can't put it into words. Sometimes this has happened to me a couple of times. You could be driving, and you go into one of those states, and you have on the mundane level, sometimes you have no recollection of how you got from point A to B. And when you come out of it, you realize there's lights, there's turns. How did I get through those lights? How did I make those turns? This is crazy. People talk about it. I've experienced this multiple times. Okay. To go to show you how those altered states, but here's the deeper thing. What protects you when you're in that altered state of consciousness? Right? So this is something that can happen naturally, where one doesn't even have to do anything to prepare for it to happen. And it also can be when an individual teaches and they learn how to do this at will, right? There's no great mystery of it, okay? Most of the time we pass through them when our mind wanders, when we daydream and when we go to sleep, or in the process of waking up. To do magic, we must be fully aware in these altered states and be able to indicate our will, our desire to make the magic work. Without the thread of awareness, our experiences become a dreamlike jumble with no cohesion, right? Let me say that again. Without, and this is important, the thread of awareness, our magic and our experience become a dreamlike jumble with no cohesion. We train in the arts of altering consciousness to keep that awareness even under difficult and distracting circumstances. I learned a good witch should be able to get into a trance on a crowded subway. This is facts. Look, you can do this in any public place. When you get into that altered state of consciousness, everything can be omitted out. Where when you're in that moment, in the now, and you're locked into that awareness, everything else outside of that is almost as if it's operating on its own existence. That's the best way I can explain it. Okay. Not that it was a good idea to get in a trance in a crowded subway, but the distraction of people, movement, and noise should not stop you. So, having said that, hold on, I got my water. Oh, there it is. Hold on, I'm behind the damn tablet. Hold on. One second. I gotta use this damn thing now. There we go. I'll get it. Holy crap. I better use my damn brainwaves to get this shit working. I hate this damn tab. I hate it and I love it at the same time. Make this shit too. I had this problem last time. I had a snap. Hold on. There we go. All right. We'll get it. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So let's pick up where we left off. Okay. So without that thread of awareness, our experiences become a dream-like. There's no cohesion, right? Things can't merge. Things can't come together. And I was saying where I left off when I was using the analogy of being able to go into that state, per se, if you were in a crowded subway, right? I was just using an example. This is why I'm saying there's some people who struggle with concentration and getting distracted. That's something you're going to have to work your way through. That's something you can't always keep, using as a kind of a reasoning or a crutch for not being able to tap in on that level. Okay. So when you are through your work and your discipline, when you get to that level, you have the ability to block out all distractions. I mean, look, the best way I can tell you, another way I can describe this, when I'm doing ritual work, and if I'm doing, let's just say, casting a hermetic circle or the 8-pointed star of chaos, once I've fully casted that circle and I've covered all of the 8 points, north, south, east, west, and the points in between, it's almost like there's this silence. You can feel your consciousness and the shift of energy. It goes into I call it spiritual silence. I can only use words to describe it. It's such a pure silence, not silence of what we know as silence on the mundane. It's this, you could feel this shift, and in that silence, there's a certain state of awareness and consciousness. I call it a spiritual silence because your senses are activated and awakened on a level that's hard to describe in human form. That's the purpose of casting, say, or doing something like that in ritual work. It's to alter the vibrational frequency and energy to put you in that state of consciousness so your mind goes into a receptive state, and it's going to automatically link into the intent of the ritual that you are carrying out if you fueled it with your intent correctly. Right? I'm also trying to show you how ritual work works effectively, in addition to understanding the mind power and how to open these gates of witchcraft and sorcery, right? I can only explain it to a certain degree in words. The other part, you're going to have to experience it. Some of you know, some of you don't, and some of you are on the path to trying to experience it, okay? All right, so let's go through some of the basic scientific explanations of states of mind and what they're related to, and on the Hertz scale. This is important to understand. Let's first start with beta. We're familiar with beta and alpha, so let's start there first. Beta, which is 13 to 16 hertz, and that represents normal waking consciousness, being alert. So when you're in a beta state and your brain is vibrating at a frequency on the beta, right, you are alert. Then alpha, right, which is on the scale of 8 to 13 hertz, right? And that is a state of meditation or meditative, relaxed, daydream, intuition, accelerated learning, right? A lot of people experience that all the time. Now, the next two, the theta and the delta, go a little bit deeper, right? And this is why a good thing to activate some of this through sound and vibration and frequency. We're all familiar with binaural beats or binaural technology. And that's something I've utilized for the last several years, and it's effective. It does work. Because what does it do? It activates the vibrational frequency that taps into the brain waves through sound, vibration, and frequency to activate the psyche and awareness to open up those higher states of consciousness. And that's what binaural sounds or binaural beats do. Right? So that's when we get into the theta state, which vibrates on the 4 to 8 hertz, right? Which deals with deep meditation, trance, journey, sleep. And that's why binaural beats or sounds open up that theta state or awareness, right? Which then leads to a state of delta frequencies, which is on the 1 to 4 hertz, right? Deep sleep, deep trance. I know the author uses the word coma here. I like to more or less use the word by manifesting a whole new existence out beyond what you know as your mundane reality, right? You can call that opening the astral gates to the astral realm. And people think getting to the astral realm, that's just the gate, the opening. There are many astral realms that are linked into the unconscious mind and your subjective universes, plural, which open the door to multiverses, plural, which opens the door to the omniverse, right? This list goes on and on. There's no limitations, no parameters. I always liken it like this. I mentioned this a few videos back. It's like when you look in a mirror and you see you open the mirror and it reflects off another mirror with you, and you look in that mirror and you see your reflection keep going back and back, and it's never ending. Well, that's explaining the power of who you are. Your existence is never ending. There is no beginning, there's no end. You have always existed. And I don't say that to sound cliche. Don't get confused by this physical vessel, this skin, this flesh, these fingers, arms. Don't get fucked up in that. It's what's inside the vessel that has always been here. Okay? And when you awaken to that awareness, this is why I was saying earlier, there's nothing new that's being taught to you. It's just you've forgotten a lot of this. You can't teach something to somebody who's always been here. But you can trick somebody, program and indoctrinate them to the reality that they're just mortal and that their existence only goes back a short period of time. And once that person has embraced that reality, they are ripe for programming. And that's what I meant when I said there's a war for the control of your mind, to steal your mind power, to steal your imagination, so they can program their false reality in you. This is what they've been doing now for years, okay? All right, brainwave levels. While there are 8 or more gates or techniques used to achieve an altered state of consciousness in the witchcraft traditions, they can generally be divided into 2 basic types. See, look at all the stuff we're talking about tonight with witchcraft, magic, sorcery. Most people who are so spooked out and don't understand this path, they don't realize how in depth and detail we get with spiritual, scientific knowledge, right? So this is what I'm trying to tell. I'm doing this tonight to remove all the spookism, stigmatas of nonsense and bullshit. And I'm talking about it's even people who claim to be conscious and awoke that are spooked out when you say words like the occult, magic, sorcery, and witchcraft. They get fucking spooktified. When the thing that trips me the fuck out the most, a lot of people who deal with a lot of traditional African spiritual systems, they never talk about how it's great, how it's rooted in the power of witchcraft and sorcery and shamanism when we talk about stuff like African witchcraft, voodoo, right? The Kendoki, the Gangapots, and Palo and voodoo, right? Witchcraft, sorcery, magic, and shamanism is the very foundational aspects of African spirituality, but nobody talks about it. It's almost like it's taboo. I'm not talking about your surface Ifa practitioners and watered down Santeria practitioners. I'm not talking about that, right? We act nowadays when everything in Africa is Egypt and Egypt only, right? And that's not true. Egypt wasn't the only high place with high levels of knowledge. Nobody talks about the Neolithics, the people that occupied the Nile region before there was any Egypt, before there was any pyramids, and what we know as Egyptian culture. right? Egypt is the first great known established civilization. Right? People don't clarify that. And most people identify with it because everything that's identified with it is beautiful and vainglorious, and the culture, the attire, and it is, no doubt. I love Egypt. I study Egypt, been ingrained in Egypt for years. But what I am saying is there's the Neolithics, right? Then you go back to the Pygmies, the Watusis, right? Who a lot of these tribes and peoples descended from. Right? Nobody talks about the power of African witchcraft, sorcery, magic, which we will be touching on, by the way, in our Friday night class, right? So if you're going to talk to me, give me a history lesson, you better take it beyond Egypt, because I'm tired of hearing about it, as if that's the only thing motherfuckers know. I don't want to hear about the Moors. You're talking about after the fact. I can look. I've been through that, been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. I did the whole Hotep thing. I did the whole Moor thing. I did the whole militant thing. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I did the Muslim thing. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Okay? Ain't nothing you're going to tell me in any of those arenas I haven't heard before. And nor do I care to hear anymore in 2023. All right? All right, let me finish this and then we'll get to the chat. All right? Some are inhibitory techniques that suppress and quiet the body and mind to induce an altered state of consciousness. They are restful, peaceful, and inward focused methods. Attention is withdrawn from the outer world and focused on the inner world, right? Remember I said, this is an inward journey out. See what I said? Not reverse, not an outward journey in. Religion is an outward journey in. God exists outside of you. It's somewhere out there up in the sky, beyond the clouds, and in the heavens. And again, the heavens is a tricky word because it comes from the Greek word haven, which is a place of hiding or enclosure, right? The word you see in the New Testament for heaven in the Lord's Prayer in Matthew chapter 6 is the word Orionos, right? And we know Orion is a constellation, right? So they use the word Orionos in Greek for heaven. So there's a lot of mythology in that you must be aware of. So they took you and tricked you and used concepts and techniques that predate religion to take you to Spookyville. So God exists outside of you, somewhere out there, way beyond the clouds and the stars. Spookism, right? Where this is reversed. What does this say? Let me repeat it if you missed it, okay? It is focused on the inner world. Its attention is withdrawn from the outer world and focused on the inner world, okay? Which is the subconscious mind, the void, the abyss, everything we talk about on this path. The physical senses are suppressed in favor of the inner senses to perceive the unseen. And all of those religions are physical religions centered around man worship, right? There's always the same concept: God, prophet or messenger or savior, and holy book with rules and guidelines in threes. They introduce everything to you in threes: person, place, and things. 1, 2, 3. ABCs. They taught you ABCs in repetition, right? Think about it, okay? The second type are exhibitory techniques, right? They excite, stimulate, and enliven body and mind, induce altered states of consciousness. They are physical, sensory, and focused on the outer world or body, yet their result is a profound interchange of consciousness of ecstasy. Now, people try to do this voluntarily by activating the DMT molecules, sometimes through ayahuasca, hallucinogens, mushrooms, and that's cool. I'm not against it. Make sure you're doing it wisely. But a true god or goddess can activate the DMT molecule that activates these higher senses and opens these gates of consciousness and awareness, can do it through their ritual work, meditation, and spiritual practice. So what I am saying is, if the only way you can open that gate is by using hallucinogens, then you must question your actual true spiritual power. Okay. And I want to make it clear, I'm not judging. Look, it's if you use it, you use it safely, you use it wisely, no judgment zone. But what I am saying, have the ability to do it also on your own, right? It's going to get good here.
Ecstasy is a difficult term. Many think of it as synonymous with sexual pleasure, but its true meaning is more akin to free from flesh. I like that term because that's what real ecstasy is, when you're not confined to the physical flesh anymore. That's what I mean when I've been saying for years, when you have the ability through your ritual work, spiritual work, to vibrate outside of a three-dimensional existence of person, place, or thing. So in your meditations, in your ritual work, in your spiritual practices, when you raise your spiritual vibration up outside of that three-dimensional vibrational existence, and you're able to now travel and approach those astral gates, this is when the gates open and your consciousness and your awareness shifts to a whole different level of understanding. Okay? That's the goal in ritual work. That's the goal in spiritual practice. That's what you strive to do on this path. This is why you study. This is why you carry out rituals. We don't just do rituals to do rituals because it's a cool thing. There's always an intent and a goal and a purpose of why you are carrying out a ritual, right? And it always should be first and foremost for personal transformation. There always should be something behind it that's connected to that. I don't give a fuck what it is, what the ritual is for. If it's not to uncover personal gnosis, spiritual gnosis of self and personal transformation, then the question is, what the fuck are you doing? That's the question. And why? This is why I've said for years, go into, even though the Satanic Bible is a bit outdated, because it was, again, as it was written in 1966, it was written for the sole purpose of addressing Christianity, mainly Catholicism, but it gets into a lot more. But the Book of Belial, the Satanic Ingredients to Black Magic, if you understand the section in there on those Satanic Ingredients to Black Magic, purpose, intent, imagery, the whole nine, it's going to give you a clear understanding of everything that I'm talking about here. Those that have been working for me for the last couple of years in the mentorship program, I make you master that section, right? And I use that as an outline to show you how to create and make and write and carry out your own rituals that are in alignment with your needs, not with your wants. See, I teach people how to master their needs first, and then the wants, you don't even got to do nothing for the wants after that, man. Nothing. The wants just come. The money comes. The hoes and the bitches come. The dudes, the players, they come. You don't need that shit. You're a magnet for it when you awaken and you open these gates. This is why people that spend all their time and energy doing work for physical shit, this is why their life is a hot mess. And then, as it said earlier, you look at the people who are truly locked in and connected spiritually, and it resonates in every aspect of their life. They're more vibrant. They're more energetic. They're more healthy. They have a more zest and vigor for life. And you can see the level of knowledge, awareness, and intelligence that they've acquired. That's the difference. Okay? This is what 2023 is about. No more playing games. Well, as I said, you're going to hear me say it all year. No more talking about it. It's time to be about it, right? All right, let's get back into this. So the author describes ecstasy beyond what most people unfortunately, mistakenly only classify it with sexual pleasure. He calls it free from the flesh. That's a great term. It's an experience that sets you apart. For most of us, that includes our body. It can be a sense of separation from the body or a sense of consciousness, including and expanding. Check this out. Consciousness, including and expanding beyond the body. And you know what movie tried to show this? I mentioned this a while, and I actually remembered it this time. The movie that came out a few years back, I think it was like 2015 or 16, the movie with Johnny Depp, Transcendence, was trying to show you how your sense of consciousness expands beyond the body. And they were trying to show you in the movie how even though you physically, what they claim, you physically die, if that's the correct word, but your consciousness continues to live on because it continues to expand and continues to expand and contract out into the universe. That's what real time is. So what we're calling time is nothing but existence, right? And there's no such thing as linear time because, as I said before, cyclical time or cycle time. I always use that analogy. If you throw a rock into a body of water where the rock hits the water, from the center of where the rock hits, ripples expand out from the center. That's what this shit is talking about. When you understand that level of existence as opposed to this linear bullshit they've been programming us with, starts here, ends there, you caught in the middle. Now they got you. They got you stuck like Chuck. See that? That's how they do that. All right. Strangely, though, they seem diametrically opposed. Both sets of techniques take you to a similar level of consciousness and brainwave activity. I like to describe the inhibitory techniques as a slow and gradual descent into a meditative state. We can feel this sometimes when we're doing a meditation or a ritual, right? You know, this is why I tell people there's states of focus and concentration and contemplative thought, but don't confuse that. When you go into a real state of meditation, you could feel that gradual process as you're making that transition. You could feel it in the vibrational frequency in your body. Sometimes when you're really locked in right at the bridge of your nose and where the brow chakra is, or the third eye, as we like to call it, you feel that tingling of vibration on the bridge of the nose, between that bridge of the nose and where that pineal is. That is a state that you're getting ready to, that's a sign that you're getting ready to vibrate out of three-dimensional existence. Some people experience this in dream. They have an OBE, an out-of-body of experience, because when you're in alpha state or theta state, and as you go into these deep states and frequencies and vibrations, what happens is the soul starts to separate from the body and it starts to travel or have what we call an out-of-body experience. Because when you're aligned with that frequency, because remember, our planet vibrates between 8 and 9 megahertz, right? And when your body and you go into those alpha and theta, or more so a theta state, right? And once that frequency is in alignment, that separation starts to occur. And this is why some people get trapped in between and they wake up in the middle of it. And this is what they call sleep paralysis. A lot of us have experienced this. We felt this pulling, this separating from the body. We felt our spirit and soul. Well, we felt it in spirit and we felt the soul pulling from the body. And in the midst of that, we awoke and we become paralyzed, or sleep paralysis sets in. And there could be a fight or a struggle to open the eye. Sometimes we try to move our body, but we can't. The mind is saying, move your arm, move your leg, move your shoulder, but you can't. Eventually you break through, because once the adrenaline kicks in and your body, your body gives off a chemical called endorphins. And once you are giving off too much endorphins, it changes the vibrational frequency and it brings it down to such a low state, you come back in the body, right? And you had to fight to do it, because what you were fighting to do was to lower the vibrational frequency. But those that can do it at will, relax and take flight and have the ability to return when it's time to return. Now, there is information that people have talked about. Some people can take that flight and not return. And I will tell you that is true. Because for an example, in the teachings of the Rosicrucian order, they call it the vital life cord or the etheric cord. And what happens is, through serious trauma or impactful traumatic moment, that cord can be severed or disconnected. Once the etheric cord is disconnected, right, that's the cord that connects you from the physical and the spiritual world. You can take flight and not return. This is why some people die in their sleep. This is why sometimes when an autopsy is performed on a person, they'll say they died of natural causes. It's just their way of telling you they have no documentation that the person had heart failure, medical conditions, or issues. We just know that their vital organs ceased, it stopped, and they died of natural causes. Or did they? Or did they take flight and they could not return? Just putting something out there. Okay. All right, let me finish this last thing, because there's a lot. I don't know if I should go on through all this. All right, so this is what I'll finish with this. No, let me stop there. All right. I think you get the general. We covered brain waves, the power of the mind, activating those frequencies. We covered the reptilian brain, right? We covered how that connects to the awakening and opening these gates. We went through in depth what magic is and how sorcery and witchcraft and all those things are under that umbrella of magic, right? So we have a clearer understanding, and we've removed uh, the spookism. So I hope that helps. So what I'm going to do now is let's go ahead and go to the chat. Let me see how much time. I'll just roll through it for now. Not sure if I can get to everything. I'll try, but be patient. I'm going to start from the top just to be fair. I'm going to focus more on questions. I'm not going to too much address comments or anything that's not really related to what we're talking about. All right. So what else we got here? All right. So again, infernal blessings and greetings to everybody, just to get that out the way. Yes. So let me say this. I saw some people earlier put Antonio, happy and prosperous 2023. Let me say that to everybody. Happy new cycle, if we want to call it a year, whatever the hell we want to call it. Happy 2023 new cycle. As I said about it, our theme this year is, go ahead, say it with me, people. No more talking about it. Don't talk about it. Be about it. Don't talk about it. Be about it. So the next time you got to listen to some long drawn out person regurgitating some information, thinking they sounding heavy and deep, and ain't really breaking the information down and ain't doing nothing practical, which means putting it into practice. Not interested. Don't talk about it, brother, sister. Be about it. So I want to welcome everybody and say happy and prosperous 2023. Appreciate that, Antonio, and I extend those salutations to everybody else. You like that word? Like that professional word? Salutations. Let me stop. Ken, would you be interested in selling copies of certain ebooks? No, I would absolutely not be interested in selling anything. Why would I want to sell anything that's hard to get? Then it would be hard to get for me. But thanks for the offer, but absolutely not. I will not sell anything that's hard to get. I will have to hold on to those things and cherish them, not in a gluttonous way, but there's a lot. Unfortunately, some of these books are becoming rare. So get it while you can. No, so I would definitely not be interested in that. And I will check my email. I saw you put something up there earlier. Yeah, as I said earlier, if you came on later, because of everything that's been going on, just reiterate this, because I know some people have reached out, whether it's on the Patreon app and others. Just give me a little time to get caught up on the email. I was kind of laying low for a while. And right now I am booked to my neck in yearly forecast readings. I'm catching up. I should be caught up hopefully in the next week or two. So I literally tell you, I got some going on every day, several of them till I get caught up. So just be patient. I will get to some of your emails. Okay. What else we got? Young Finest. I'm telling you, boy, man, let me tell you something, boy. That's an MC name right there, boy. You should put out some records. I keep telling you that, man. Young Finest, the new album from Young Finest. I'm telling you, that's classic shit right there. Just having a little fun. All right, what else is it? Again, I'm looking mainly for questions, not comments or anything personal right now for the sake of time. Let me try to get some solid questions answered. JW said earlier, I think I know what this is in reference to. So many are bringing over right-hand path ideas, to the left-hand path. Spells without action as useless as prayer. And as I was saying earlier, if you came on late, there also has to be physical action that works in alignment with your spiritual action and your ritual work. And if you came on late, I was using the analogy, say somebody does ritual work to get a better job or obtain a certain career path or open a bit or whatever it may be. I'm using the job thing because it's real basic and simple to understand. People think they're going to do a ritual or a spell and light some candles, and then they're just going to sit back and poof. This six-figure job is going to fall right into their lap. The phone's going to go ringing off the hook because they did this ritual and lit a few candles. No. You also have to do work in the physical too to complement work in the spiritual, which means you're still going to have to put your resume out there. You're still going to have to try to set up some interviews because that's going to complement what you did, and it's going to open the door quicker. Because if you understand the harmony and how it works between the subjective and the objective realm, You can't ignore one and just work with the other and vice versa. That's called understanding as above, so below, as within, so without. If you understood that principle, you would never just approach it in one aspect and one aspect only. So yes, we have a lot of right-hand path philosophical thinking trickling its way into the occult. There's a lot of bullshit out there now. I've been saying this now for the last few years. There's a lot of New Age slash Ifa slash African traditional spirituality slash Judaism, religious Christianity, New Age occult shit out there that people are mixing and infusing. And all it does is create more confusion. And it creates, to me, those are people that want to still stay safe, but dabble in the occult. And that's why I call them the fence straddlers, the dabblers, playing footsie. You put your left foot in and your right foot out. You do the hokey pokey and you shake it all about. That's those motherfuckers. I call them the hokey pokey motherfuckers. They still want to play Ifa. They still want to play Christian mystic. They still want to play this. They still want to play that. And then sprinkle a little occult left-hand path stuff in there. And now we got some new infused. It's like what they call those restaurants where they mix all food, like Asian infused food, where they mix all these. No, that shit don't work like that. This is a path of solitude. This is a path of letting all those old ways go that serve absolutely no purpose when you're on this path. One of the first things you do when you set foot on this path and you make the initiative to walk this path, first thing the spirits will make you look at and do, especially through your shadow work, especially if you're connected to Azazel. What is it you're doing that you need to let go? What do you need to release? What spiritual practices are you wasting your time that's doing absolutely nothing for you? But you are creating the illusion it is, or maybe you have insecurity and fears and you still want to hold on to it because you just can't let go because of fear of the unknown. But until you dive into the fear of the unknown, the void and the abyss, that's the only way these gates will open for you. If you keep bringing old shit with you and you think you're going to carry it very, very slick and discreetly over on this side, doesn't work. You'll find most of those people got issues. They got mental problems. They usually got personality disorders. A lot of them usually suffer from depression and things of that nature. When some people have those things, naturally, they could be medical conditions. But some people induce this stuff through improper spiritual practice by infusing all this energy because they don't know how to put it in. They don't know how to put it in its concept. And they don't know how to take that information. And it's hard for them to perceive it all. So all this crazy shit starts happening, right? We don't do any of that stuff. All right. Young Fine. Brother Todd said, wild animals only eat and reproduce by doing something. Yeah, being conceived, you have to. You're right. That is basic. But you know what I find out with basic stuff and common sense and simple things? As I said before, when it comes to common sense, you either have it or you don't. You can't teach somebody common sense. And we all can attest to this. You know how many people I run across have book knowledge, degrees, they got institutional, so-called scholarly, collegiate, academic knowledge, but they're dumb as rocks when it comes to common sense. And I'm going to say it again. You either have common sense or you don't. Common sense cannot be taught. You have to have it. Baraka is also a character in Mortal Kombat. That's funny. Yeah. And when we're talking about Baraka as a word for blessings, right? That's funny. I guess earlier Mia was feeling the Holy Ghost. Mia said, preach, Brother Baniti. She was catching the ghost. Was you foaming at the mouth, speaking in tongues? No, let me stop. Will Knife says, Happy New Year. Happy new cycle. Appreciate that. Happy new cycle. Young Finest, shoot me right there on the bottom of the screen. For readings or consultations, just shoot me an email. Look, if you're, I'm not sure, maybe you're listening, maybe you're, I don't know, maybe you're not, you're just listening and you don't see the screen. Right below the screen, there's a ticker that goes across for the whole class, how to reach me for spiritual readings, consultations, right there on the bottom. Just send me an email at KHM, where you see right there on the bottom if you're looking, unless you're at work or something and you're just listening. Knum19, KHNUM19 at gmail.com. and I will send you that information. Just reach out to me. Also, to speed the process up, if you really want to book one right away, put days and times you're available and the time zone you were in. That helps, because as I told you guys before, I deal with people in the United States on all 3 time zones. I deal with people overseas. I got customers in Africa, Europe, France, Thailand. It's crazy. And sometimes I gotta really struggle to communicate with them, but we make it work. So, I deal with all the time zones. Time zone is very important. Okay. Very important. All right. What else we got? Reg, I did see that pop up. Reg's Domino. I just see you signed up for the mentorship. I will reach out to you either later. If I can't later, I will reach out to you in the morning. I did see it pop up on the Patreon if you're still here. I saw you signed up. We're going to get you going. I will send you through the Patreon app just the basic things you'll need to grab to get started. You might have some of them. You'll need a few source materials. I'll send you that information. We'll get started, and we'll set up your first mentorship call. All right, we'll get you going. I did see you signed up. It actually popped up. I saw it maybe 20 minutes before I came on, but we'll get you going. I got you. Be paid. I'll get that information over to you. Okay. Where did I leave off here? Oh, Will Knight, right? And then Young Finest about consultation. Let's keep it going. Okay, yeah. So that would be a consultation would be great for that Young Finest, because how a spiritual consultation works, you basically dictate it. Whatever you want to talk about, discuss, questions, that's what it's for. Rabbi said, Reg, prepare for destruction. He means that in a good way. Rabbi has been in the program for a while, and he's taking a journey. Put it that way, and he's right. But he means that. Trust me, he has all good intent behind that. He's gone through his self-initiation. He's now navigating through systems of Heka. He's been at it for over a year. It's a lot of work. But I can tell you this, if you put the work in, you will definitely benefit from it. All right, what else we got here? Will Knight says, how, if possible at all, would one differentiate between a legitimate, bona fide spiritual experience and what amounts to imagining, hallucinating the experience? Well, it's crazy you say that, because all of those elements are connected, right? So how can one differentiate? Well, they're all everything you just described in there are all to a degree subjective in nature, right? Well, one, you'd have to identify what was the experience, right? Now, if the experience you had was centered around, say, a vision, or it was giving a clear message, or there was some type of hidden gnosis revealed, well, that would manifest itself, which obviously would say those would be the results. So if nothing is manifesting from that experience, then maybe you were just tapping into something, because maybe at that moment it wasn't time for that to manifest. It could also be prepping you for something to take place later down the road. So there's a lot of intricate things and it's a great question. There's a lot of intricate things that fall into the spectrum of that question, because if you're having some type of, whether you're calling it imagining something, or you might be terming, as you say, hallucinating the experience, something is activating an awareness, regardless of what that is. But how it's going to play out and how it's manifesting, if it's getting results at that moment in real time, or it could be prepping you for something later, and that could create the illusion that it is an illusion. I know that sounds crazy. Let me say it again. That could be creating the illusion that it's an illusion, because how the subconscious mind works, and we have to understand this is crazy. The subconscious mind and how the spirits work, and when you're tapping in and you're working with this energy, it's going to open portions of your brain that it's going to connect with. So you might be having visions, seeing things, symbols. No matter how bizarre or weird your dreams are, they are a manifestation of everything that you've experienced and tapped into. So it's going to draw from that reservoir or that spiritual bank where it can get your attention, so it can convey a message, whether that's through some vision, whether that's through some particular order of a dream, or you might be seeing symbols. Whatever it may be, it's happening for a reason. So I say all those things happen for a reason. But I think what the The question is, within that question is to get to the root cause of what's the reasoning why it's happening at all. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. But that's a good question. Invaspor. I don't know if I said it right. Hope I didn't butcher that. Dr. Bruce Bynum has spoken on the base of the skull and spine many times. First heard him on your own show. Yes, we've had him here on YouTube. I keep saying it. That's going to be my goal for this year. I think I will reach out to him tomorrow. I've been saying that, and I keep forgetting. Yes, he talks about that in Dark Light Consciousness, right? I would encourage people to get that book. It's a great book. It's a book I've been promoting for years. I've had Dr. Bynum on the show, radio show, and here several times to discuss that. And I think it's time maybe to kick off the year and let's get him back, right? He loves to come on. It's been a while, and I think it's time to reach out to him. Maybe we'll get him back on here to do a show. So yes, you're correct. He does talk about that. Yeah, Young Finance, good question. Brother Media, I heard something about the black chakra. Don't know if that's a thing. If it is, explain what it is. All right, I'll give you the brief explanation. It's also referred to as the dark star chakra, as we know it in the Draconian tradition. And as you know, I'm a Draconian high priest in that order. As I said before, there are 11 chakras, right? And the dark star chakra being the last is a chakra that's not connected to the physical body. It's tapped into through a lot of the things we're talking about tonight, opening the psyche. It is the doorway or the gateway to all your spiritual experiences. Now, there's a lot more to it. It would take more time to explain it. Step one to getting to the understanding of that dark star chakra is what this author, Christopher Penczak, was talking about. The opening, he refers to it, Nahika, is that what he called the gate? Which is that eighth chakra they refer to. Matter of fact, I can refer you to a basic source to get the beginning understanding of it. Go into the Draconian Ritual book by Asenath Mason. She talks about chakras 8 to 11, right? Now, as you find in some traditions, most people on the surface will talk about the main 7 chakras. Some metaphysics will talk about 9 chakra system, but we know there's 11. Now, is there a connection with that, the 11 clip off? Most definitely. Because the dark star chakra is the doorway or the gateway to the void and the abyss. It's the doorway and the gateway to the opening of what we're calling these spiritual realms. Once the dark star chakra, or as you call it, some people refer to it too, as what you're calling it, that gate is open. The psyche is aware. And it's a process of doing that through many aspects of different spiritual work. But that's one of the main focuses, and that's one of the main purposes of working with the clip-off, right? And you tap into those powers. Now, that Dagarion, if you're familiar with the trees, that Dagarion, or the root of Lucifer, or the seat of enlightenment, as we call it, because when you look at what Lucifer represents, Lucifer is that unknown or unhidden or unspecified key or untangible key we were talking about earlier. Lucifer, the illuminated one, is that, because this is what it means when it refers to Lucifer, the light bearer, because Lucifer embodies light and darkness simultaneously, right? The dark star chakra, and that's why this all tying in. You guys bringing up Dr. Bynum's book, Dark Light Consciousness. What is dark light? Dark light, really, in essence, is Lucifer himself. Okay? And I just say himself when we're giving it a definition or explanation, because Lucifer embodies light and darkness. That's what real consciousness, and real light is obtained in darkness. And the light that's obtained in darkness is consciousness or knowledge or intellect, right? Once the dark star chakra is activated and the individual has the power to tap into it, the realms of possibility are endless, right? That's the basic breakdown, but that's something that could be talked about a little bit more in depth. But that's what it's referring to. All right. Excuse me. I always thought that would be a good song. Golata, Lalata, let me stop. And Lolanic. But does each chakra, the 3 names of the one, and again, I would refer you guys to that Draconian Ritual book, have their own functions outside of the Sunya, like other centers having their own functions and rest. Yes, because they have functions. The best way I can describe it, and you'll experience this, they have functions with the etheric body, right? That's why they say it's not those three chakras. Once you get past the basic 7, right, and then the 8 and 9, depending on what system you look at, but the 10th and the 11th, once you tap into that, the reason why you'll see, even she explains it a little bit in that book, she doesn't go super in depth in there, because it affects the function of the etheric body, right? Because when you start to understand the etheric body in relationship to the void and the abyss, because it's the etheric body, and we know ether is nothing but energy, right? And this is what it means when we say we're, quote unquote, beings of energy and light, but not energy and light like a new age philosopher says, energy and light of consciousness, intellect, and awareness, right? And then you'll see some alchemists and some metaphysics will talk about everything in existence has an etheric counterpart, right? So when you understand I think I turned my mic off. It's back on. You understand the function of how those operate. Okay. But there's more on that. I think that would be a good class topic, because it's going to open the doors on so many other levels of information. And that's something I think we need to spend more time on. I'll just give you a quick rundown there. All right. God Complex says, sometimes you see something that's not nice about yourself. Well, you see that a lot. Question is, what do you do with it, right? That's up to you. And then it's perception. It depends on what you're labeling not nice, right? You could say somebody can say something, oh, that's not nice, or that's wrong. And another person may not see anything wrong in it, right? So we have to make sure we're putting that into context in regards to our understanding, right? But that's, yeah. Kenneth M. says, can Kundalini energy arise disease that awakening disease that may have been laying dormant in the body? Absolutely, yes. Because what can happen? That's a good question. Let's run through that real quick. Sometimes, for an example, when I said earlier that Kundalini awakening is painful, I wasn't just talking about mentally and emotionally and spiritually. And definitely, when you awaken your psyche, sometimes it awakens emotional centers that are struggling and suffering from psychological trauma, right? In that awakening too, that psychological trauma can transition into illness that lays dormant. It's no different when you experience physical residue from ritual work you do. Like I've talked about this in the past. I've done a ritual before with Bilal, and sometimes the amount of energy that's contained in that ritual can be so vast that the body can't break it all down in that moment. And it's just like when you get a cold or a flu or a fever. When a fever comes and arises in the body, it's the way of the immune system fighting off illness and disease. So yes, sometimes you can bring that to the surface, and that could be part of the pain, the struggle, and the fight that you have to overcome and go through, right? And it could be disease that you inherited genetically, right? Because a lot of those diseases that are laying dormant in the body, not all, could be inherited genetically, and they're laying dormant, unfortunately, till it's time where the immune system and other factors in the body become weak. Because as we know, with the key foundation, I keep telling people this, your immune system is the look at it as building a house, okay? And the foundation of a house is the key if that house is going to be strong. Well, look at your immune system as the foundation to your health. Even with this whole COVID shit, I tell people the best, simplest way to simplify things, to try your best to fight off all disease and illness, in addition to what you do spiritually, always do things that build up the immune system, as far as taking supplements, exercise, things of that nature, right? As I said before, simple thing with COVID. One of the things, and it's still to this day, especially when there was that first wave, one thing they were noticing in everybody that was being struck with severe COVID, they had severe deficiency of vitamin D. And then these fuckers were so slick, they want to social distance and stay in the house. What's the most natural form of D? Sunshine. I kept telling people one of the key things you could do for your immune system, in addition to many others, for the sake of time, I'm going to get into that all again tonight. Take at least 1,000 units of D3 every day. I don't care if you live in a warm environment, especially if you live in cold climates. When you're in places like Canada, England, and the Northeast, I lived in the Northeast pretty much my entire life. This time of the year, you get such a minimal amount of sunshine. You know shit. You know, if you live in New York, grew up in New York, it's dark by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Sometimes people go to work in the morning, they come out, they don't ever see the sun when they're indoors. They go into work and it's dark, they don't see no sun. And by the time this time of the year in the winter, they get out of work at 5, it's dark again. And it's also linked to serious states of mental illness, depression. Here's another fact people may or may not know. The city in the United States with the most suicides is Seattle, Washington. Because Seattle, Washington has the least amount of days of sunshine than any other portion of the United States. So not only is lack of D and sun, not only is lack of vitamin D linked to other immune deficiencies, not only is it a triggering effect for people that get severe COVID or long-term COVID, it's also traced to serious levels of depression and suicide. That's facts. Go look it up. Okay? So you must educate yourself to things like that. Remember, it's no different than we said earlier about when you do ritual work, you must do things in the physical to complement it. So the same thing, when you're doing spiritual work, you're raising the Kundalini, make sure you're taking care of yourself physically because it is painful physically too. I'm telling you, I was doing some work, waking Kundalini with Bilal back in 2019. My dumb ass just had gallbladder surgery. It's the only surgery I ever had in my entire life. It's the only time I ever was in a hospital for anything. And my dumb ass went to work and I didn't understand the full functioning of the organs, the internal organs, the endocrine system, the glands, and how important that is. And I awakened some energy in me that fucked me up, because I didn't understand the extent of what the surgery took out of me. And my dumb ass came shortly out of the hospital. As soon as I felt a few days later I was recovered, I started doing work with Bilal, and that was a big mistake. Because you need to also understand the functioning of all those organs and how it can affect you spiritually when you're doing spiritual work. Remember what it said in the beginning of the show with magic. It's a scientifical process. So most definitely there can be physical things that can happen. And I learned my lesson. And I can't even describe in words the shit I felt. One of the things was uncontrollable shits. And I'm not embarrassed to say that. Because it activated, because if you've ever had your gallbladder removed, I've had my gallbladder completely removed, you know how it can affect. Like certain things you can't really eat as easy as you used to. Everybody's a little bit different. Like dairy runs through me. I can't eat dairy like that no more. I mean, I can eat it very limited, but you start to learn your body. And what happened was, because of the effects physically, what was going on, there was all types of energy I am waking. Man, Bilal gave me, I got the worst shits I ever had in my entire life. Let me put it that way. That's the best way I could describe it. But anyway, yeah, I mean, there's things you don't think. People don't, you think this shit don't have, this is what I'm trying to say. People think they know about this path, but they really don't. All right, what else we got? Sherry, I wouldn't look at, it's not that you're trying to bring on more, right? You're bringing things on so you can address them. Don't take that approach, right? You tread patiently, but at some point you got to bring these things on to face them and master them, but find your niche. But avoiding them all together, or I'm not saying maybe that's not exactly what you meant by your statement, but you can't. You have, at some point, as I said many times, with resistance comes more persistence. So you got to be careful. All right. This is what makes me leery about going too far and deep into this, like all the rituals. I said, it's kind of scary when I hear y'all talk. So pace yourself, right? You don't focus on one thing, stick with that, master it, get it to the point where you have a good understanding of it, and then move on to something else. What starts to happen through that approach, you start to get more confident. Then you can start, doing multiple things at multiple times. Just gradually work your way in. So start the process slow. Start somewhere, right? You don't need to be all over the place. Work on one particular thing. Say that comes up in your shadow work. And whatever came up in that shadow work, pick a particular deity that works with that issue that you're dealing with and focus on that. Once you've got that accomplished, then move on to something else. I can tell you this, as you approach it in that perspective, you will gradually be pointed in the right direction and what to do, what not to do, how often and not how often. That's the best approach, right? But you're going to have to dive into some level. I'm not saying dive in just completely on an ignorant, unknown level, but it's called, I like to use the term, take a calculated risk, right? And when you take a calculated risk, you're doing that you gather as much data as you can to kind of get an understanding of it. But like with anything in life, there's a risk with anything you do. That's a calculated risk. Do your research, gather your data, get yourself to a level where you have a certain level of understanding, and you're just going to have to take that jump. Okay. What else we got? I jumped on shit. All right. I'm going to try to get a few more in here. It's time for me to wrap it up. I'm getting to that point. But that was a good question about the disease. We left off with Sherry's questions. All right, where we at? All right, let's see questions. Let me skip. Yeah, we talked about in the shadow work class, in our shadow work journaling, Trident 72, Brother Taj put a good question there. The king, the tyrant, and the weakling. In the shadow work class, we're talking about different characteristics or nature and personalities that we carry, right? And in the shadow work class, we're going through each one of them, right? And it poses three different concepts. One of them was a section that Taja put in there earlier. I'm not sure if he's still here. We're referred to, are you the king, the tyrant, or the weakling? And what the king, tyrant, and weakling represents, let me explain real quick. The king is somebody who's the ruler, the governor, who is in sound mind, body, and spirit, and has things in their life for the most part functioning on a harmonious level, and they're dealing with everything around them, whether it's person, places, or thing, within accordance. So the king is the ruler. The tyrant is somebody who is a more narcissistic in nature, controlling, dominating. So it has you questioning your character. Which one are you out of these three? Now, we all exhibit some of these at some points, but some of us, when we sum it up, we're one of these more than the others. So that's the tyrant, the narcissistic person, the controlling person, the person who always feels like they got to dominate, right? And they might do multiple level of things in order to be that tyrant. They take advantage of those who they know they can control, who are less weak than they are. The weakling, which is the terrible one, is the one who's usually prey. They're usually taken advantage of. Their kindness is mistaken for weakness. People know that they're a pushover, so they can take advantage of them. These are your people that don't know how to say no. These are the people when they're asked for favors, they just don't have the confidence. These are people usually that their throat chakras are fucked up and they don't know how to express themselves. They usually have social anxiety, as I mentioned early in the beginning of the show, and they usually struggle to express themselves, right? That's your weakling. This is what we do in the shadow work class. We take all these concepts in our journaling process and we apply it to ourselves. This is step one in doing shadow work before you even approach ritual work. So I'm showing you first, step one, you have to identify who you are. A lot of people think they know who they are. Trust me, you don't. You have this concept of who you created, who you think you are. Who you think you are and who you actually are two different things. Trust me when I tell you. I know a lot of people say, no, I know who I am. Man. Yeah, you know, I'm such and such. I'm Akbar Muhammad Hotep, Ra, Amun Ra the third. No, fuck all that. That's who you think you are. And then when you get down to the nitty gritty, you go, damn, I'm not who I thought I was. And it's not your fault, brother. It's not your fault, sister. You didn't know, but this is what we do. But that's what that's referring to. Okay. What else we got? Yeah, show and prove time. Okay, so we'll not depart. Yeah. Oh, that was okay. Yeah, you were addressing the question. Also, just real quick to Will Knight's comment earlier to share, also really a simplistic way also, and you kind of described it in there on certain levels. Ritual is done for the purpose of self-transformation. That's what ritual is. It's transformation. What kind of transformation? Self-transformation for all those things you described, for growth, right? This is why we do it. And that's how Sherry and everybody else should look at ritual work. Yes, is in that process, you will face challenges. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to dumb it down. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But I can tell you this, I don't want anybody to just dwell upon the negative. I can tell you there's a lot less of that as opposed to the great, phenomenal, quote unquote, in terms what you would describe positive results. There's more beneficial growth in that for you than there is some of those things. Now, yes, the best way to protect yourself against those things you're worrying about is by doing your preparation, your research, gaining a certain level of knowledge and awareness. That is your protection against all that. And trust me, if you do that correctly, you will not have to worry about any of that stuff. Most people that get jammed up is just because they didn't do their due diligence. They just dived right in out of pure ignorance and thought they knew, right? And really, they didn't check the boxes. But I guarantee if you do your due diligence, you don't have to worry about that. Trust me when I tell you. Another question to Taja. The Kundalini yoga, there's very similar poses to regular yoga, but it's a little bit different, like with the mudras, it's done a little bit different with the mantras and the chanting. You're on Patreon, so I would go look at some of those classes, and I'll get into that a little more in depth. But it's done by, like, some of it very similarly. It's maintaining certain postures and positions because it activates certain energy centers, but we also incorporate certain tones, frequencies. Like, there's a lot of mantras and chant. It's also connected in correlation to each chakra and energy center. And there's a mantra that through that vibration of that mantra that activates that energy seat, etc. So there's a little more of a deep approach, and then we incorporate more of the occult deities as opposed to some of the new age aspects that they use in regular yoga. Veggie says, I saw the movie 3 years long. Yes, it's a good movie. Good movie. I would encourage people, when I mentioned that earlier, for people to go watch that. Yes, I heard. My wife told me the Witches new season just came out of that. I got to try to get back into that. Shadow and Bone, I haven't seen. Sandman was excellent. I did a couple videos on that. Yeah, and that's the key in Vosport. Like I was saying earlier, stay away from the mindless stuff, right? Because apps like Netflix and Paramount and Peacock, they could be great, but they could also be damaging, right? I love those apps. I love the live streaming. I basically downgraded my cable to just basic bullshit with local channels just to have it, and for other reasons. But most of the shit I stream, and that's the beauty of it. But through that binge watching, there can be a level of programming. Now, programming can be good or bad. Because remember, one of the things we say, one of the aspects of this path is to reprogram the subconscious mind. So when you're reprogramming something that you were badly programmed with, that's when programming can become a positive thing. So programming as a whole isn't a bad thing. It's when you're programmed and there's a specific intent for that programming for dominance or control, as how they've been doing it to us for years. Your job is to reprogram your subconscious mind. And as I said before, look at your subconscious mind as like a hard drive on a computer, right? A hard drive on a computer is what stores all the information in those drives. You know what movie was trying to show this too? Transcendence, back in 2014. Not Transcendence, Interstellar, I'm sorry, with Matthew McConaughey, right? I had to go back and watch that. That popped up. It came in my mind, just popped up in my mind because the spirit was taking me to something. It told me. I got up one day, and don't ask me why. And the last 3 days, I've been driving, listening to the theme to Interstellar. I have a 30-minute version of it that I found on YouTube, and I'm getting all types of revelations from it by just driving back and forth, listening to the Interstellar main theme. There's some powerful information in the vibration and sound of that song. And if you're feeling familiar with Hans Zimmer, who does a lot of soundtracks for movies like that, he's definitely I don't know, he's a different band with the sounds, because he can definitely tap in. He can convey in the sounds and vibrations the emotions that's being conveyed. But there's a lot of hypnosis that, I know it sounds crazy, but that's for the last 3 going on 4 days. I've been driving back and forth listening to the Interstellar main theme. And the spirit woke me up about 4 mornings ago and said, you need to go back and watch that. And that's my plan for this weekend. And I watched some clips of it. It took me to some portions of it naturally. I'm going to break some stuff down about that shortly. So I'm going to go back and watch that. It's funny that this comes up here, because everything it's all linked in. I already know, it's all linked in. So there's a personal message for me there in Interstellar. I saw it. I remember most of it to a degree, but I haven't seen it. I probably haven't watched it in 5 years or more. So I'm gonna go back and watch that. What the fuck was that in reference to? Oh, when we were talking about, I'm sorry, my mind just goes. When we were talking about different shows and things of that nature. Okay. Yeah, Keona, I was saying earlier, as far as the notifications, sometimes it's just, look, I've had people tell me, well, one, sometimes it's because people are subscribed to the channel and they'll even hit the notification button. Now, make sure step one, when you subscribe to anybody's YouTube channel and you want to get all notifications, you can't just hit the notification bell. You got to click it till the drop-down menu comes, and you have to check all notifications. That's step one. Because when you check all notifications, you'll get notifications for anything I post or anybody does. If you're subscribed, it'll be lives, uploads. If you just hit the notification bell, YouTube decides what it's going to send you. Now, I've heard people say they've done that. They've hit the notification bell, did the drop-down menu, hit all notifications, and they weren't getting notifications. I don't have no explanation for that. But I also have heard YouTube is fucking with some of the algorithms. I think that has something to do with it. So I don't really have an explanation for that, other than the fact I think, like everything else, it's damage control. Because like my channel, for an example, it's crazy. I don't really I make a very, even though my channel is monetized, I make a very small amount of money doing it, because they limit my monetization based, believe it or not, based on my subject and topics. So they determine what they think is mainstream or not. Now, I guarantee you this title, because it's got the word witchcraft and sorcery in it, it'll probably automatically downgrade me to limited monetization. That's how they do it. So that to me is the only explanation. If you've hit the notification bell in the drop-down menu and hit all notifications and you ain't getting them, I just think that's YouTube fucking with it. I don't really have an explanation for it. To me, the solution, I understand it. Look, it's their platform, it's their shit. And I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut, right? But I look at all the other benefits and what it's enabled to do. So I don't dwell on that, but hopefully that helps. I think that could be what it is. Now, maybe you didn't hit all notifications. Maybe it's just something as simple as that. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, there's more to the, that's a good comment earlier from Lady Shalise. There are more keys within the spinal fluid to activate these gates, and that's true. That's something we could probably touch on when we revisit this. Yeah, spinal fluid is key. When I was talking earlier about the nervous system and things like that. Yes, make sure that notification bell is set to all. Now, again, maybe it was. I'll see if she typed in something down later, because I know some people have reached out to me and said they did that and they still weren't getting notifications. Now, it'd be crazy if yours was set to all and you got a notification late, then that's confirmation there. They fucking with it. But like I said, I don't really get worked up about it. I've heard a lot of people complain about this, other YouTubers, and say that they've even seen their views taken from them. I've heard that. And my answer simply is to this. It's like living in your mom's house, right? Your parents' house. You live by their rules. You don't like it, you get out. It doesn't really affect me. I don't care. I know this ain't my platform. I don't own it. I don't control it. I try to utilize it to the best of my ability to benefit from it from the best I can. That's all. I won't even stress it. But those are my theories on it. I'm pretty sure it's in line with that. Trust me when I tell you. Damn, where we at? Hold on. Okay. Lady Shlee says the brain is the key, and the set pathways we must adjust, and the new patterns we must discover and lay in order to advance in our own spiritual development process. So that's true. Not really much to add to. And sometimes the processes do suck because they're not easy, right? As you said earlier, they're painful. There's a lot of change involved in it, a lot of different shifts in those changes. And sometimes they come in serious waves or ebbs and flows. And this is why you always hear me. I don't say it just to say it. This is why I tell people, just be prepared. Change is coming. It comes. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, even if it's something that might be, intense, but it has to happen. That deconstruction process, depending on what's going on in your life, in order for change to come, there has to be some level of deconstruction. And again, that's sometimes where it becomes a little painful. All right. What else we got? Yeah, Sherry King says binaural beats were a game changer in my meditation. I swear, slowly getting to the point where I don't need it all the time. Yeah, it's a great tool. When we were talking about brainwave frequencies, theta, delta, alpha, and beta, the four main states, alpha, beta, then theta, and delta. Yes, that's the key to understanding those brainwave functions. And yes, the binaurals can help with that. Okay, I said earlier, not selling them, but making copies. I thought about it. It is a little time consuming to do that. I've said I might do that in the past. It's just with everything going on in time, I don't know. It's a possibility, though. Edgar Rader. It says, evening, Mr. Baniti. How would you go about doing the shadow work reading? I just found out your channel a couple of days ago, and I am interested in getting your reading. Thanks. Send me an email to the email you see going on the ticker. Just send me an email with your information, days and times you're available, in the time zone you're in. And basically, I'll send you the information. Once you confirm a time and pay, then I send you a Zoom link, and we go ahead and we do it through Zoom. That's basically how you do it. It's that simple. So to start that process, just reach out to me with an email with the days and times you're available. Just title the email Shadow Work Reading. I'll send you a list of all the services I offer with that, just so you have it for future reference. And then once you send me days and times, I'll let you know what I have that works with your schedule. And once you confirm and pay, then I just send you a Zoom link and we do it. That's how it works. That's simple. Try to do them all by Zoom. Some people want to do it by phone, and that's okay too. Some people don't like to be on camera. That's fine. Probably 98% of them I do is by Zoom call, because I like to do it live interaction. I like to see the person, but some people just don't like, they're not comfortable being on camera, and that's okay too. If you don't want to do it on a Zoom video call, just request a phone call. We can do it on the phone too. Okay, that's personally up to the individual. And I put that in the email. You can do it either by a Zoom video call or you can do it over the phone, just to make the person feel comfortable. In case you're a person, for whatever reason, some people just don't like to be on Zoom or camera, and that's fine. Whatever. That's up to you. All right, what else we got? CJ Whaley says, for our sexual energy, how can we utilize this to access other states of awareness from a left-hand path perspective? I only heard of the Taoists speak on the Montauk Chia. We have the Vama Marga, right? When you get into, the Dravidian left-hand path, and Vama Marga is big on that. But I would also say this, the deeper way for us to look at this, okay, we have to make sure we're harnessing. And I just was talking to somebody about this. I think it was a consultation. We have to learn to harness our sexual energy correctly, because sexual energy can devour you or it can empower you, right? Some people are oversexed, where they don't have a good control over their sexual energy. And we need to understand the difference between spiritual sexual energy, say per se, when you're carrying out rituals that's connected to spiritual sexual energy, because you have to differentiate between the lust and the spirituality. Because in the spirit, and when you're working with it from a spiritual perspective, as you're talking about, both are involved. But disciplining yourself and knowing how to utilize both from a spiritual practice is different than just pure lust, because sometimes part of our nature, it just needs to be pure aggressive lust, fucking and busting a nut, or getting your freak on, whatever it is, because the animal part of our nature needs to be fed too. So it's about understanding the fine line between both and awakening those centers. Then there's people who are undersexed, or they're suppressing their sexual energy. So there's a very intricate line that goes both ways in that, right? Now, whether you're using systems such as as you mentioned, the Montauk Chia, whether you're using tantric, some people are heavy into the tantric. All those are awakening the spiritual power of that sexual energy. But that can be dangerous if the lust portion isn't disciplined, right? And it's not about suppressing, but it's not also about being consumed by your sexual desires. You should experiment. You should indulge. There should be levels of satisfaction and gratification, but not to the point where you have no control over it. So a lot of these spiritual disciplines are showing you how to harness the spiritual side of it and the physical side of it, just almost like everything else in life. So you must tread that, and harnessing your sexual energy in a harmonious aspect is important, because I've seen that destroy a lot of people, not just their spiritual life, but their physical life, right? And we touch on all that in the classes too. Very important. All right, what else we got? Kiona says, how do I keep finding myself in the abyss? You'll keep finding yourself. Eric Jones says, hello all. Alexander Promio, hello all. Okay, well, welcome if you're new. Eric Jones says, is it true when having Kundalini awaken, if your back starts hurting, you're unlocking a new level of Kundalini? Because I heard it's levels to Kundalini rising. Well, something Lady Shalice said earlier, this happens a lot to me. A lot of times when you get lower back pain or back pain out of nowhere, one of the key areas that's affected in a lot of spiritual work is because when she was talking, when we were also talking earlier about the stem of the brain where it meets the spine, and then when you take the spine all the way down to the back, and then a lot of the cerebral fluids and all that, usually there's an activation there, or you feel the effects of it there. That's a very common thing or symptom when you're doing intense spiritual work. A lot of people describe one of the physical effects could be back pain, right? So yes, that could be one aspect of it, that you're getting from a Kundalini awakening. It definitely can be one of them, for sure. Yes, and that's a good Alexander Prom. Yeah, like you said. Yeah, and I think that's I know what that is. I'm sorry, I know you had to change your name. It's always they're always going to be some. I want to stress this because I know, like for example, Sherry King and others in that same have that same perspective right now where they are at in their journey. It is true, but I don't want to paint the picture of fear. I don't want to paint the picture for them more so. I don't want to paint the picture of hesitancy. I don't want that to prevent them from indulging. And as we said earlier, we are scientists. We're going to have to experiment in our experimentations. Don't go into it with a mindset that something bad is going to happen, because guess what? If you do, something bad is going to happen. You become your thoughts. What you think continuously is what you become. So there is power. They're in that basic concept that people talk about in metaphysics and spirituality. You attract what you think. That is true. You do become your thoughts. If you think negative all day, you will attract negative things, but it also works the other way. So think positive, have confidence in yourself, trust the process, right? Trusting yourself, and go into it with a mindset saying, I will come out of this victorious. Even if I go through something and experiment, I will overcome and conquer, right? So I don't want to just paint this. Yes, I'm not going to dumb it down either, but I don't want that to prevent or make somebody very complacent and hesitant, all right? All right, what else we got? Yeah, okay. Jurgen Mormon. Yeah. One of the main surface books that you can find on those chakras is the Draconian Ritual book. There's also, I believe, what's his name? Jeez. Man, I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of his name. I might have to go over there and maybe grab the book. Shit. I'm just drawing a blank where my mind is. There's two that come to mind right offhand. Fuck. He wrote the not the Necromania. He wrote can't think of the name of the fucking book. I'm drawing a blank right now, but the Draconian Ritual book, a lot of information on really how to work with it ritualistically. There's not a lot out there on the surface, but in some of the like the sacred orders, also what you call it, the Ascetian Bible talks about it. Father Sebastian alludes to it in some of his grimoires of vampire magic. You will find it mentioned in there. Oh man, what the fuck is the dude's name? It's driving me crazy. I'm actually, oh man. It'll probably pop in my mind. Hold on, let me go over there and take a quick look. Hold on. All right, I got D.H. Thorne. I couldn't think of his name. D.H. Thorne. I think it's Becoming the Maelstrom. I have them buried in the back. It's one of his books. He goes into it a little bit too. I'm sure maybe there's others that have come across it. They can give you reference point. That's the first that come to mind at the moment. The Draconian Ritual book has a good section in there on it, so I would probably start there. It is very widely studied and practiced in the Draconian tradition, and that's where I have studied it and learned it. And we actually have rituals centered around it, and we apply it in our work. And I think also, you know what? I think Michael Kelly too. And I don't know if it's Apophis, might have been Apophis or one of his other books. It might be Apophis. He also alludes to it too. That's the other one. All right. Oh man. Okay, here we go. Yeah, the week. That's funny. Jack, what's up, brother? I called you a couple of days ago, man. Hit me up, man. You too busy, man. You're international pimp, bro. You don't be hitting the dude up, man. What's going on, brother? Nah, it's fucking with you. I left you a message. I don't know if you got it. I left you my Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. Call me back. I left you my Arnold voicemail. Yeah, that's how we talk to each other. We ask clown. Amazing Nini, what's going on? You up? What you doing up at this time? What you doing up? You 6 a.m. in the morning. You probably ain't even asleep. Reg 44. I'm experiencing the deconstruction as we speak. I'm not running anymore because you can't run. It's gonna find you. You can run. What that was saying? You could run, but you can't hide. Nowhere to run, baby. All right, what else we got? Just put this out there. I see Black Diva had typed in. That's not something. Well, it's a long process. I know I don't just do that for anybody. There's a process to that. First, there has to be in-depth consultation of your connection or work with that. And for one thing I keep explaining to people, you also have to consult spirit to make sure that's what spirit wants. But anyway, without getting too personal in it here in an open forum, shoot me an email and I'll explain. There's a lot of things that govern that. And I don't think anybody should just do it. It should be done provided that the right information supports that. That's the simplest way I can explain it. All right. Go Birds. Listen, man, I'm gonna tell you this. Let me end it with this, man. I got to address brother Taja. He's from Philly. He's an Eagles fan. I'm a Giants fan. Listen, all I could say this, man. Here's the reality. I gotta keep it real, 100 with you, brother. Ain't no pressure on the Giants, baby. We wasn't supposed to win last week. We weren't supposed to beat the 3 seed. We ain't even supposed to be in the playoffs. So listen, there's more pressure on Philly than there was Minnesota. To be 14-3, number 1 seed, you got the bye, and you're at home. If you guys lose this game, it'll be one of the most ultimate chokes in the last 20 years. Just saying, brother. Just saying. Now, on paper, you guys are favored. You're supposed to win. But I got a funny feeling Jalen Hurts isn't 100%. We're going to find out when he takes that first pop, and he might have to go with the Birds. We'll see. But if Philly wins, is it going to be a surprise? Absolutely not. But guess what? If the Giants win, it's going to be a major upset. Ain't no pressure, baby. Ain't no pressure. We just got to show up. All pressure's on Philly. More pressure on Philly than there was on Minnesota. And my condolences to you, Viking fans. I just got 2 words: Kirk Cousins. I tried to warn everybody, but nobody wanted to listen. Kirk Cousins. Need I say any more? You want to keep staying with Kirk Cousins, this is what will happen. Kirk Cousins cannot get you to the promised land. Sorry. And for all the Cowboy fans, enjoy it while you can. It's over after this Sunday. You ain't beating San Francisco. They all sipping the Kool-Aid. They beat a very poor, weak team that backed into the playoffs. The Buccaneers are horrible. 8-9 losing record, walked into the playoffs, been playing like shit for 6 weeks. Don't sip that Kool-Aid, Dallas. All I got to say is 1995, baby. 1995. You guys ain't won shit since 1995. That's all I got to say. It's not going to change. You ain't winning shit this year either. But we know it would be the ultimate. I might have to do some magic to make it happen. I might have to do some rituals starting tonight. Let me tell you this. If it did, I'm just saying. If the Giants beat Philly and somehow could get Dallas and go to – can you imagine if the Giants went in Philly and Dallas and got to the Super Bowl beating Philly and Dallas? That would be one of the greatest gifts I can ever get. One of the greatest gifts. I know. Let me have one game at a time. Let me slow down. Let me get my composure because it could be painful. I might get – stop. Nah, it's going to be fun, though. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good game. New York and Philly, man, you can't beat it, man, on any level. Can't beat it. It's going to be fun. We having the party, baby. We all set up. We had our party last week. Families coming over. Everybody was in the Giant jerseys. We ready to go, baby. Saturday night, 8:15. Nobody call me. Won't be answering the phone. Kickoff's at 8:15. Not looking at anything. Anyway. Oh, you got the Necromanian. Okay, cool. All right. Other than that, I'm going to have to sing. What was that song? Is that the Mickey Mouse Club? For now, my friends, the end is near. All right, we're going to wrap it up. I appreciate it. Yeah, I knew you would like that, Taja. Yeah, we got to. I know I keep saying it. I know some of you people, we're going to get back on the Hip Hop Occult show. There's been a lot going on. Hockey's winding down. It's just, there's been so much going on. After February is the last month. So let's try to get something going. Just because we love doing that show. All right, listen, people. I've been on for over 3 hours, 15 minutes. That's a wrap. Hopefully this helped you. I wanted to start the year off with giving you a powerful message and understanding of what magic, witchcraft, and sorcery is. Mind power. We're going to take it to another level this year. Remember, what's the saying? We're going to say it every class. We're going to say it all throughout the year. Don't talk about it. Be about it. That's it. Don't talk about it. Be about it. All right. I appreciate all you guys. Till the next video. I might try to get on here a little more often this year if I can. Maybe get on, maybe twice a week if I can, or a couple more times rather than just once a week or once every 2 weeks. We'll see. I'll try. All right. Other than that, infernal blessings. We will talk soon. You guys enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you guys next time. Infernal blessings.